Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started with non-agenda testimony. Okay, I'd like to call up Doreen Diaz, Carolyn Smith, Louise Lucas, Melinda Fenska, and Fauci Abdi.
Doreen Diaz Pester. My address is on file. And my original topic is I want to speak to you, and I'm hoping you take my suggestions literally and you really research this, because I think it's going to end up costing you a lot of money. You need to look at your disability policies for San Diego Unified employees that get injured on the job. You need to look at them, because your insurance for liability is going to go up unless you change some things, and you need to look at the way HR department is implementing return to work issues and how they are treating employees that have been injured on the job. And I've heard other employees talk about and complain about the way that they have been treated. Any one of you are welcome to email me. Secondly, since the other topic was postponed, I'm here to talk about paraeducators. I'm here to talk about some comments. None of you are responsible for the budget. None of that has been the budget problem from the state. You didn't create this mess, but you are responsible for comments. You're responsible for insensitive comments that have been made at these meetings. You're responsible for forgetting to mention paraeducators when you're apologizing to everybody else, namely teachers, counselors, nurses, gardeners. You didn't mention the paraeducators. I noticed that in writing, and many of you are aware of that. You owe the paraeducators an apology, because we get cut more than anybody else. The other issue I want you to know is years ago, we had a strike. There was a strike in the 90s, and during those 5 days when the teachers were gone, this district still operated. Albeit there were problems, but this district was functioning, and it was operational. One day, just one day, without no special ed technician, no special ed assistant, no cafeteria workers, no bus drivers, this district would be shut down. You need to keep that in mind, because if there ever comes a day where you get a strong enough organizer, that's going to happen, and some of these things that have gone on, well, you'll think twice about it. Paraeducators, which were accused of not being in the classroom by one of your board members, they're picking these kids up at 6:15 at their house. They are with most of these kids all the way to 3:15, many more hours even than some of their parents, more waking hours than their parents, more waking hours than teachers. And I'm not here to put people, one group against the other. I'm here to state facts. Paraeducators are in the classroom, and I did not appreciate the comments that were made by board members. We are in the classrooms. And the other thing is, who's feeding your kids? Who's taking care of your kids? When your kid falls down and gets injured, any of these students, it's the paraeducators and the nurses. It's the health techs, the special ed health techs, the health assistants, and the nurses, and we need to keep that in mind. And when you're looking, we need to have something done where all these cuts are not balanced on the back of the classified. Thank you.
Thank you, Doreen. And I personally apologize for any time that I've neglected to mention the paraeducators as we talk about everybody that has a role in educating our kids. But thank you for calling us on that. Okay, Carolyn Smith, Louise Lucas, Melinda Fenska, Fauci Abdi, Erica Lee, Ethel Larkin, Kent Buchholz.
I don't see Carolyn Smith, so I will go ahead and begin. My name is Louise Lucas, and I am one of a number of library fairies throughout the district. I happen to work at Perkins K-8 school. Okay, maybe I'm not quite a fairy, but I am a library technician, and perhaps full disclosure compels me to say that I love my job and I want to keep it, and I want to keep working full-time. Maintaining any school library requires full-time work. Silly get-up aside, I hope to impress upon you the magic that we library personnel do every year, and to persuade you to keep every library open. At my school, I protect and maintain a collection that is worth $250,000. That figure does not include textbooks. Last I heard, 31 schools are planning to eliminate their library positions for next year. If those schools have collections like mine, who is going to defend those books? We are talking $7.5 million worth of materials. That figure does not include textbooks. Every September, every school goes through the ulcer and hair loss-inducing exercise of getting into compliance with the Williams Act. Textbooks. It's all about the textbooks. The $80 average apiece textbooks. The typical student has 4 each textbooks. At the middle and high school levels, guess who maintains and tracks all those textbooks? You want to see some real magic? Watch us library fairies flitter and fly through those first weeks of school. We get compliance done. If we aren't there, who will have that work added to their already full loads? At this time of year, when textbook distribution is as far from our minds as is Santa Claus, it can be easy for budget-stressed administrators to look at library personnel as non-essential, indulgences, luxuries. As a taxpayer, I hate waste. Years ago, I voted to have some of my money spent on building new libraries for schools, sort of assuming they would be staffed. As the parent of 5 sons, I have been grateful for 20 years for the library people who let me know when school books were late or were missing. Those people have helped me teach my children about their own responsibilities. If I truly were a library fairy, if there really were any magic in this wand, I would twinkle and smile and wave it. And you would see and understand our value to you. From the Instructional Media Center down to the smallest elementary school, not only do we welcome your students to the wonders of reading, we maintain, protect, and defend assets that you already have that are worth tens of millions of dollars. Our value to you is immeasurable. Your libraries and your staff are one of the best investments you have. Don't put them at risk. Thank you.
Hello, I am Melinda Fenska. I'm from Loma Portal Elementary School. I've been an employee of San Diego Unified for 14 years. I'm your cheapest and best date because for 12 out of those 14 years, you have not paid for me. A PTA has paid for me. 2 years you have paid my salary. But that aside, I agree with everything Louise says. I manage a smaller school site, but my services are invaluable. Just want to briefly tell you in a minute or so a really wonderful story. My beautiful golden wings that match nothing about my perilously wonderful tutu were given to me by a boy, a very reluctant reader, 4th grade boy, who after his class helped me make a video of the library rules for the year, decided it was not fair that a fairy should not have wings. So he went out and acquired wings for me, brought them to me, and I did not want to wear wings. And I expressed this to him. I said, I'm not sure about the wing thing. And he said, but Mrs. Fenska, we need magic in our world. Libraries provide that magic. They connect the right student to the right book. That has that personal connection moment that can sometimes be amiss in the classroom. But I know all the students at my school because I see them all, not just one classroom. There's a very personal touch in a library that's very important. But you know, I've been at this job, as I said, for 14 years. For the first 4, I sort of did what I thought was best. Then into my world and into this district's world came someone who is beyond being a library fairy, the IMC resource librarian, Deborah Ford. She works an utterly different kind of magic. She takes people who are on library assistant levels, as well as certificated personnel, and turns them into wizards of knowledge and ability to run resources you have purchased at great expense. Yet, did you know you pink-slipped her? It's outrageous. She provides training and things that no one else can do. And you know what? She does it most incredibly magically for all of us. And yet in this pink slip process, what you have done, in effect to me, is you have said anyone with a master's in computer science can take Steve Jobs' place. Or, back when Rui Iacocca ran Chrysler, anyone with a master's in business, they can run Chrysler. It isn't true. You have pink slipped the wrong person, and your libraries will not be the same henceforth. If I could take off my wings and give them to you, I would, because it's almost worth that to me if in some way Deborah and her immeasurable knowledge could be kept. She's an international speaker on library management, and she's written books on connecting boys and literature. And you have chosen to pink slip this resource. Bad choice.
Ethel Arkins, Chapter President, OSS 724. Addresses on file. As you know, I represent the support services, which are those custodians, those landscapers, those food service workers, those transportation bus drivers, those PPO, those painters, plumbers, all of those divisions. But this year, our OSS department is going to be most hit in our transportation department, our transportation workers, those school bus drivers, those services that are essential to ensuring that all students have equal access to the district's educational services, since students use school buses to get to magnet schools and schools that have specialized programs to meet their needs. I'd like all classified workers in the room to stand up, because these are the faces of the people that you're cutting, that you cut year in and year out. Not only OSS, but paraeducators and O2BS people. They have faces. They deserve to continue to keep their jobs. Stop cutting. What? Anybody else that was once a classified worker? They need to stand up also. All right. There you go. You guys see us just as names and numbers on a piece of paper, but we all have faces, we all have families, and we have lives, and we all want to keep our jobs so that we can support our children so they can continue to go to these schools. As I said, our transportation department is going to be hit hard, and I keep saying this every time I come up to the board. I want to make sure that the district informs the parents about the busing situation come September. Thank you.
Ethel, I and all of my colleagues are also classified workers for the district.
All right. Well, then, hey, don't cut yourself, don't cut us.
I'm Kent Buckholtz. I'm Labor Relations Representative with the California School Employees Association, currently assisting and representing the workers in the Support Services Unit. Folks, we can ill afford any more of these layoffs and cutbacks that are proposed. Cutting transportation services to magnet schools, VEEP, along with the elimination of the OSIL program, would be an absolute travesty for students and parents. An absolute travesty. In fact, let's remember, the Transportation Department has already been cut by over $12 million in the last few years alone. You've already rescinded several upper management positions. I think that this is a question of what your priorities should be. All classified staff provide essential support services to our schools and to our students. Many of these services have already been cut to the bare bones by some who apparently believe that classrooms get cleaned all by themselves, that students get from home to school and back by some sort of magic or some sort of sleight of hand, that the only grass that needs mowed, weeds to be pulled, hedges to be trimmed, are those in front of their own homes. Well, that's not the case. These proposed reductions are not only an insult to all in the community, they represent a willingness by some to callously turn a blind eye to the most basic and fundamental needs of our kids, parents, and staff. We can only hope that all of us are better than that. We can only hope. But more importantly, we hope that you are better than that. Thank you.
Hi, Erica Cully. My address is on record. I just came back last week we were off for a week. I just came back from the Paraeducator Conference up in Sacramento. I took 3 days out of my vacation time to go up and learn more about what is happening for the paraeducators. One of the things that I really need to point out is that in special ed, we've come a long ways from where kids with special needs used to be at. You're cutting 90 positions in special ed, and it just makes me wonder, because in my program, and it's not just me, but there's people in the schools, I work with mild to severe disability, but as you're cutting these paras that work with these kids who have special needs, are we going to end up, now that we have them included in the classroom, are we going to start segregating them again and make them feel like they're not people anymore? Because who's going to be there to take care of them? Where's the health tech that's going to come and give them their meds? Where's that special ed technician who's going to be there to help feed them? Where is the bus driver who knows our students, and the parents trust that bus driver to get their students to and from school safely? My heart is with kids with special needs, and it kills me that you're cutting health techs, you're cutting library aides, all these people that make these kids feel important. I mean, if you look back at the history of special education, these kids didn't feel like that. They were put away in classrooms and way in the back of the school, forgotten. Now everybody knows them. I'm out in the public. Not only am I out in the public educating people to my students are learning that there's a whole world out there that they can conquer. So please, when you start looking at cuts and you're looking at paraeducators, please remember that, because you may be affecting the schools, but you're affecting these students, that we are so much to them and they are so much to us. Thank you.
Okay, Carolyn Smith, Fauzi Abdi, Erica Lee, Jane Bausa, Josie Alves, Mike Martinez, and Fardosa Osman.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Fardosa Osman. I'm here speaking on behalf of Erica Lee. My address is 5052 Wyman Street, Apartment 2. I'm the treasurer of Mi Alpha Theta, a National Math Honor Society at Crawford High School. I'm here to invite you all to the 3rd annual Mi Alpha Theta induction ceremony. This year, 107 students will be inducted, and we're anticipating about 400 community and family members attending. The event will take place on Thursday, April 21st, 2011 at 6:30 p.m. It's in the Crawford Auditorium. We will follow you up with an email invitation tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen of the board, Mr. Koba. My name is Mike Martinez. I believe my address is on file. I'm a teacher at Patrick Henry High School. On March 15th, my world kind of was shaken up for the 2nd year in a row. I received a pink slip. 2 weeks later, my wife received a pink slip also. She's been in the district for I believe 4 years. She's a special ed teacher at Lincoln High School. Loves her job, does a fantastic job. I myself have been an educator since I was 29 years old, 18 straight years in public education throughout the county here and in another state. I came on to Patrick Henry High School 2 years ago to take over their football program. I'm also a social science teacher. I teach world history and I teach AP U.S. history. I kind of apologize to my brothers and sisters here from the union not wearing red, but I thought it more appropriate to wear black because I am in mourning for my career, for the career of my wife, and about 1,300 other individuals that teach alongside me in this district. I was extremely proud to move back to this city and live in this city, pay taxes in this city, and to work for this district. I've been in other districts. I'd heard plenty of bad things about this district, but I heard good things too. And I felt that being a community member would make a sincere difference. I'm not willing to give up on my kids, like these 1,300 other teachers are not willing to give up on them. And we all have our stories. And I'll just let you know what my next couple of months come down to. At the end of this month, I have to have about 97 students prepared for the CSTs and for them to do their best. At the beginning of May, I need to have 31 U.S. history students prepared to take the AP exam. And May 16th, I got to have about 150 kids ready for spring football. And I don't know if I'm going to be back. And they don't know if I'm going to be back. I haven't even discussed this with them because I don't even know what to say to them. And like I said, there's 1,300 other stories just like that. Don't give up on these kids. You take 1,300 teachers out of the classroom, and I guarantee you, we are going to raise a generation of third world children. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Good afternoon, President Barrera, Board of Trustees, Superintendent Belcoba. My name is Jane Bausa. You have my address on file. I'm a guidance assistant in San Diego Unified School District. As of the end of June, I will be 31 years employee of this district, which every year I wonder, do I have a job? But let's not talk about me. Let's talk about the classified employee that you're laying off. We all say, who will do the job? And I know they says, oh, then it's not going to get done. But the fact is, it's just going to move to somebody else's desk. Or they're going to hire an hourly position so that job can be done. We are important. You might not think so, but we are important. We are the part of the educational process. I'm a guidance assistant. In the morning, I see all the children and the parents. I cover classroom for the teacher when they go to IEP. I make sure that the list of the tardy, the SANGO, every other things that needed to be done, so you guys can get your ADA. This is just part of the guidance assistant's job, beside the other classified employee. The bus driver picked them up. A bus assistant helped them get to the bus to where they're going. Another classified employee meet them when the bus comes to the site. Food services feed them. The custodian, the gardener clean the school so they will be ready for the student. Para-educator take them to the classroom, special ed. SEA, special ed assistant, is being eliminated. SET, IBT. There are many different classes that being eliminated that the children really need. Important part of the school. I know some of you doesn't think that the classified employee is that important. But like what the other person said during the assess, if one day we don't show up, there will be no school. Thank you.
My name is Josie Elvis, and my address is on file. President Barrera, trustees, Mr. Superintendent Koba. I'm here to talk about, I really feel that if children were adults, I think they would have more respect and we would think more about what we're doing to them. Since they're, it feels like they're not non-citizens to, treated. Because I would like to know if one day if you could take time and be a classified for a day, just like you have a child for a day in school, in your jobs, maybe you need to go to be a classified for a day just to see what the classified employees do and how, we are important to the children because we know their needs and we're there for their needs. And if we're not there, who will change them? Who will make sure that their tube fed are on time and properly and the medication they need to take? If we don't have our health techs, who knows what? Every health tech knows. Sure, they have a closet full of medication because there's a lot of children that do take medication, or they have medication in theirs because some children, just in case something happens, they need to take this kind of medication, a bee sting or so forth. Okay, who's going to be there to know whose medicines is who and what their doses is if we don't have our health techs or our nurses there? Are they going to call someone? By the time they get there, what's going to happen to that child? We really need to think of children, not as non-citizens, but really give them some respect, because if they were adults, this wouldn't be happening. I'm sure they would be all in here talking, but, since they don't know all this, we as parents and classified employees that work with the students, we're here to talk about them. There needs to be more respect for our students, to give them what they need. And I would like really to ask you to please, if you have time, be a classified for the day, just so you can know what classified employees do for a day. Sure, we could talk about it and tell you, but until you experience it, then you're really going to know what we are about. So please, I ask you first, before you make this decision, be a classified for a day. And then at school, not here in the offices, be there in the school where the students are. Okay? Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Carolyn Smythe, and my address is 3692 Alexia Place, San Diego, California, 92116. I work for the International Rescue Committee in San Diego. We've been resettling refugees in the community for 35 years and running after-school programs at Crawford for 15 years. We've worked closely with the ELL population at the school. We've seen the benefit that the small school model has had on our students. It's given them personalized attention from caring adults and more opportunities to become leaders in their school. We thank you for supporting our school and keeping the small school model, and we also thank you for reallocating 0.5 principals to each school. We thank you for supporting the A through G requirements for all students as well. We hope that IRC can support the district in making sure that all ELL students who are enrolled in ESL 1, 2, and 3, 4 have the opportunity to earn enough English credits to fulfill the requirements. And we also hope that students who are learning English as their third or fourth language will be able to test out of the foreign language requirement easier than they are right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'd now like to ask the Army JROTC Color Guard from San Diego High School to present the colors. Please stand. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Carry. Colors. Order. Colors. Right. Face. Forward. Arms. Half step. March. Left. Left.
Thank you. I'd like to welcome everyone present today and those watching the broadcast and call the April 12th, 2011 regular meeting to order with all board members present. If you wish to address the board today and your name is not on the blue sheet located at both entrances to the auditorium, and if you've not already submitted a request for public testimony form, please complete the form and submit it to Ms. Ward. Speakers on agenda items will be called on to speak during the discussion of the agenda item. Once the discussion begins on an item, no additional public speaker requests will be accepted. Non-agenda item testimony was heard at 5 p.m. and will also be heard at the end of the meeting. At this time, I'd like to introduce our ASB student representative, Nancy Sokas, from Patrick Henry High School, to tell us a little bit about what's going on at the school. But before we do that, I'd like everybody to join me in congratulating Nancy for accepting admission to UCLA. One of our superintendent's alma maters. You'll do us. You'll do us all proud.
Thank you. I'm Nancy Sokas, and I'm the ASB president at Patrick Henry High School. And currently at Patrick Henry, we're preparing for our CST and AP testing. We also have an improv show coming up in the next few weeks, and we are also preparing for our senior dodgeball tournament, which will be in the end of April. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Nancy. Okay, and now we'll move to our student presentation from the Mission Bay cluster. This is the Mission Bay High School Cyber Bridge program. Dr. Meyer, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah. I would like to ask Diana Carberry, Area 7 Superintendent, to the podium, please, to introduce the student presentation.
Thank you. Good evening, President Barrera, Superintendent Koba, members of the board, cabinet, and members of the audience. Tonight, Area 7 is represented by the Mission Bay Cluster, and you're going to hear about a special program initiated through the vision of UCSD, Dr. Lauren Thompson and Dr. Babender, as well as San Diego State. We know that science education and the need for future workers in this area is crucial for our nation's economic recovery. Mission Bay High School is the only school in the San Diego Unified School District participating in the National Science Foundation Cyber Bridge Grant. Principal Hilgers will introduce the team and the program.
Welcome. I hope you enjoy this presentation. It really is a unique opportunity to bring higher education and our K-12 experience together. I'm not going to talk anymore. I'm going to let the kids talk, so I'm going to introduce Anna Schultz.
Thanks.
Good evening. Before we begin our presentation, I want to introduce the Mission Bay Cyberbridge team. Mr. Escamilla from the Science Department at Mission Bay High School, and my teacher. Mr. Calgary teaches the Multimedia and Video Projection course at Mission Bay, and Maggie from UCSD's Cyberbridge. Students from Mission Bay include Michael, Juan, Celeste, and Carlos. Also with us is our very supportive principal, Mr. Hilgers. I also wanted to acknowledge our scientist from SDSU who has been working with us all year, Dr. Clive Dorman, who is not with us today but very helpful to our program.
Good afternoon. My name is Michael Martinez, and the Cyberbridge project is a joint effort between Mission Bay High School, SDSU, and UCSD to promote science at the high school level. Together, we have created the Rose Creek Water and Sediment Analysis Project, which we are demonstrating to you today. This is a map of Rose Creek showing the various sites that water was sampled from. The purpose of the project was to find the relationship between Rose Creek and Mission Bay. Anything else? No.
Hi, my name is Celeste.
And I'm Juan.
And we're going to explain a little bit about the process we did for the program. So we began by collecting water samples from the various sites from Rose Creek. Since it's like a large creek, so we collected from different areas of it, as you can see. And after we collected the samples, we then performed field analysis, measuring for the salinity of the water, the pH, and the temperature. This was all done in the site of the outside when we collected the water.
Back in the lab, we measured for nitrates, phosphates, sulfates, and alkalinity. And for our demonstration, we are going to test the pH levels. Should we give it?
Yeah, just tell them that we're going to have...
Okay. Well, right now we're going to have you guys test the pH of the water so you guys can know how it feels like. What he's passing around right now is the pH strip, which is used to check the salinity level of the water.
Look at that whole different reaction.
You taste the Coke, I taste the coffee, and they can taste the water.
All right.
But then we have different, different liquids that we taste.
¿Les explico? Okay. So what you guys are going to do now is going to open the bottles and dip in the pH strip and pull it out.
You sure?
And you want to talk?
Do not drink the water. Stop. So we're trying to drink the water.
Well, Carlos, you're supposed to explain what the colors are.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen from the Board of Education. My name is Carlos Gallardo, and this is an ongoing project that is going on, and basically what you guys have in your hands right now is a pH strip, and what that indicates is if yours is red, yep, hold it up if yours is red. Yep. Okay, if it's red, it's a girl. It's a girl. It's a girl. What you're holding in your hand right there, if the strip turned red, is that it's acidic. So as you can see on our chart over here, you have to compare your strip to one of those colors over there, and if it's in red, that means that the pH balance, the acidity inside of the water is really high, and that can affect the fish's reproduction. And if you're holding a brown strip, raise your strip if it's brown. Yep. That brown strip, that means that the fishes, it might affect the newborns, the newborn hatchlings that are in the river. That's what it could affect them, their growth. And if you have a yellow one, who has a yellow one? There we go. If you got a yellow one, that means that the water is normal. That's how it should be and how it should stay. All right, so like I said,
I'm challenging your theory.
Let's quote him on that. I'm normal.
Like I stated before, this is an ongoing project, so we will have some more information going on with this project. And regarding the pH levels, we found that levels were safe in Rose Creek, the river next to Mission Bay High School, and it's in perfect condition for the existing fish. The results from the water chemical analysis demonstrated that the Rose Creek is not badly polluted. I wouldn't swim in it though, but the overall health of the creek was normal. And you guys might ask what we measure there. We measure nitrate, phosphates, sulfates, and we also measure alkalinity. And you guys might ask yourself, why do we measure that and not anything else? Well, because these specific things, nitrates, phosphates, and sulfates, they are indicators that show us the present condition. The present condition of the creek, if the creek is healthy or not. And for example, if we have too much levels of nitrate in the water, it can develop algae, and algae blocks air circulation that's in the water, and so the fishes won't be receiving that oxygen that they need. And also the plant life will extinguish because, as we all know, photosynthesis, that's what causes plants to grow. And is like a little blanket of algae. And as you can see in our video here, we went to a science fair. And the whole purpose of us bringing this information out to the public is something that everybody should be aware of. It's something that we have to bring out to our community. So this video up here that you're watching is that shows us, Mission Bay High School, this team of Cyberbridge, us going out there. We're not just concealing this, doing this for a grade. We're also doing this to advise the public. And I would like to conclude with Celeste here. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Good job.
All right. Well, like you said, thanks for your time. And we're hoping that with these tough budget cuts, programs and activities like these will be going on for our schools, because it's a great opportunity for students. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thanks for letting us present tonight. One of the other things you should know about the Cyberbridge project is that it's actually a multidisciplinary project. So our students, we have teachers from the media department, English, social studies, and math working together in teams to create this. So a kid who thinks, maybe I don't want to be a scientist because I'm an English major, can actually find a way to do this. And at the Science Festival, which is not a science fair, but an actual festival here in San Diego County, one of the teachers said to me, which was really exciting, was that even if this process or program doesn't exist next year, in my multimedia class, all kids are going to create a video that mirrors this kind of practice, because they could actually get a job out in the public world, because they need people to document the science experiments and things that are going on. So it's really been great, and thanks for hosting us tonight.
Thanks, Diane. Okay, we're now going to move up on the agenda, items F2 and F3. Item F2 is something that I'm very, very proud of that it's come together. So this is our bullying, harassment, and intimidation prohibition policy. Superintendent, you want to kick us off?
Thank you, President Barrera. I think that this whole journey tonight to this policy is a reflection of great work on a community-based effort that Nellie led with Dr. Dolores Jacobs from the center and many other community support groups. If I can all go back to last fall when we had the vigil out on our lawn here, community coming together to recognize the tragedy around safe campuses, kids of all background with a particular focus on LGBT that night, but the whole underscored need for safe teaching and learning environments. It's been a terrific engagement on the right cause, and I'd like to turn it over to Nellie, who's been leading it, again, with Dolores Jacobs to get to this point.
Yep.
Thank you, Superintendent Koba. I'd like to say that the Safe Schools Task Force has been meeting since December, since this board initiated the action, and we're very, very proud of the work that we bring forward to you today. I'd like to say that we came together with somewhat of a and I shouldn't say somewhat, an extremely strong moral imperative. in which we all believed that bullying is absolutely unacceptable in any place, particularly in our schools. And I'd like to also recognize some of the people here who are here tonight who were part of that effort. And particularly, as Superintendent Koba mentioned, Dr. Dolores Jacobs, who is here from the center, and she's right here. And at this point as well, if I could ask everyone who is here tonight who participated in the task force and who is a part of the Safe Schools Task Force anti-bullying group to just please stand for a moment so we can thank you publicly. Our particular group has completed a policy that you have here before you today, and the approval tonight of this policy will give us the green light to move forward as a group towards the procedure that will detail information for our school sites, including training, including a communication plan, and then also including the reporting requirements that we would like to look at that are mandatory if we want success. I also want to note there's another item that's coming up next that perfectly aligns, that will be brought forward by Board Member Beiser very shortly, that aligns with this effort that will help protect our students. So lastly, I would just like to ask that this be approved tonight and give us the green light so we can move forward. We recommend full approval and are very proud of this collaborative effort.
That's great.
We move approval of this item.
Second. A motion and a second. We've got several public speakers, and I'm going to ask us to limit speaking to 2 minutes apiece. Ingrid Cedeno, Emlyn Arredondo, Samantha Arredondo, Mira Zambrano, and Colin Pierce.
Hello, board members, superintendents. My name is Irene Sagatti. My address is on record, and I have been a teacher with San Diego Unified School District for over 30 years. My final assignment was at Scripps Ranch High School, where I was GSA advisor. And since my retirement, I have been a volunteer with the Gay, Lesbian, Straight Education Network. And I'm also the proud mother of 2 gay sons who graduated from San Diego High's baccalaureate program in the early 90s. In my capacity as a GLSEN volunteer, I have met some extraordinary students at the Hoover GSA, and they are here today to speak. Before I introduce them, I would like to acknowledge their advisors, teachers, Ellen Hohenstein and Amanda Robinson. These are 2 of the many teachers in the district who take their time to be GSA advisors. And it is their hard work that makes this possible. And now I would like to present the president of the Hoover High School Gay Straight Alliance, Ingrid Cedeno. She has also brought with her other members of the organization, Emmeline, Alfredo, and Samantha. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Ingrid Cedeno. I live in City Heights, and I am a senior at Hoover High School. I am currently the president of the Gay Straight Alliance. Being gay, lesbian, bisexual, or transgender should not be a label that separates us from society. We're all human. As a GSA president, I have witnessed the kind of homophobic harassment that has affected my friends and I in the LGBTQ community. According to a GLSEN National School Climate Survey, more than 91% of LGBTQ students say they hear homophobic slurs or expressions frequently or often. When I became a member of GSA and later became president, I felt I needed to be heard and understood, to support others who felt judged and less worthy. My goal was to provide a safe environment at our GSA meeting where students can be accepted and can also come to accept themselves. We come here today to inform you and everyone of the danger our community faces because of anti-gay bullying. Many of us suffer daily, and that often includes our allies. We need support from our friends, teachers, administrators, family, and school community, but we don't always get supported. Sometimes we feel isolated, neglected, and traumatized, and we're aware that our sexual orientation is not always conceived to be normal by society. But in the end, we're human, and we're starved for equality. Each one of us standing before us has been harassed or labeled more than once in their short lives for weight, skin color, religion, national language, or sexual orientation. But we stand strong today, knowing that San Diego Unified School District is about to adopt the anti-bullying, harassment, intimidation policy, and our rights, long denied, are about to be recognized and affirmed. We will be proud, happy, and validated when the San Diego Unified School Board adopts this policy, and we urge you to do so. I would now like to introduce Emily Arredondo, a member of our GSA, who would like to make some remarks. Thank you.
As Ingrid said, my name is Emily Arredondo and I live in City Heights. I would like to share a personal story. I was once labeled as a lesbian because I was a part of the GSA. This made me feel uncomfortable, but later I realized that I didn't care what people thought about me. But unfortunately, not everyone is as calm or strong about such a situation. Having lived through that experience opened my eyes to what labeling can really do to a person. How much confusion and devastation it creates within. We stand before you today and ask that we help change this vicious cycle of pain that have led to suicides, murders through the years, and construct a safe and caring environment where everyone can liberate themselves. Thank you. And now I'd like to present Alfredo Urquieta and his speech.
Hello, my name is Alfredo and I live in City Heights. I'm a member of the GSA at Hoover High School. I've known about my sexual orientation since a young age, and like many, I didn't approve of myself, and I noticed that many people around me didn't as well. After constant years of harassment, these words became immune to me, but that doesn't mean that it didn't devastate me. I resented myself. Each word thrown at me was slowly killing me. I hid my sexuality from my family and friends. And there's only so much harassment one can take. In my freshman year at Hoover, I finally got the strength to come out. And to tell you the truth, it felt good. Yet harassment still came to me. I am certain that hundreds of students are not as courageous as I am, and these harassments can turn fatal. With the help of this policy, not only will homophobia not be tolerated, but many LGBT students can feel safe in school. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Myrna Zambrano on behalf of Senator Christine Kehoe. She has a statement that I'd like to read to you. Dear President Barrera and board members, I wholeheartedly support your adoption of the proposed bullying, harassment, and intimidation prohibition policy before you today. Every California student deserves the opportunity to do their very best in school without fear of harassment or bullying. This policy should result in a better learning environment for all students and a safer one for LGBT youth. I applaud Superintendent Koba, district staff, and especially Dr. Dolores Jacobs and all the community partners who worked on developing the policy, and the school board for taking it up. It is long overdue. I urge its adoption to give students on every campus a greater level of comfort and safety that is conducive to a better education. Senator Christine Kehoe. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Colin Pierce and my address is on file. I should like to start by saying how inspired I am to be here today. I'm inspired by my partners on the Safe Schools Task Force and the extraordinary passion and dedication that they bring to this cause. I'm inspired by the decency and strength of Superintendent Koba and his staff. And I'm inspired by you, the board, and the stand that I expect you to take today, a stand for a school district in which every student is valued equally. I'm proud to be here representing the San Diego chapter of GLSEN. GLSEN is the Gay, Lesbian and Straight Education Network, and for 20 years GLSEN has been the leading national organization fighting to ensure that our schools are safe for all students. We envision a world in which every student learns to respect and accept all people, regardless of disability, gender, nationality, race or ethnicity, religion, sexual orientation, or gender identity. It has been GLSEN's surveys of almost 20,000 students that provide the oft-quoted statistics that quantify the crisis of harassment that shapes the school experience of so many young people today. The National School Climate Surveys highlight that nearly 90% of LGBT students have been verbally or physically harassed or assaulted, leaving 3 out of 5 feeling unsafe at school. As a result, they are 4 times more likely to miss school than their straight classmates. Their grade point averages suffer, and not surprisingly, they're less likely to choose to continue to further education. GLSEN's research has also been able to point the way toward the effective measures that educators can take to create safe and affirming classrooms. We urge the board to adopt this anti-bullying policy, specifically as it enumerates sexual orientation and gender identity among the groups to be protected against bullying, intimidation, and harassment. We also urge you to support Assembly Bill 9. GLSEN San Diego looks forward to working with district staff as they develop the procedures, training for both staff and students, and LGBT-inclusive curriculum that will be essential for the policy's successful implementation. We will continue our own support of the Gay Straight Alliance clubs that exist within schools in the district. These GSAs and the educators who step up as advisors provide safe spaces and critical support for LGBT students. And we're very proud that you were able to hear from GSA students this evening.
Okay, Isaac Gomez, Mark Dillon, Jan Garboski, Ernie McCrae, Reverend Mary Sue Brookshire, Dolores Jacobs.
I can just start whenever I want?
Please, yes.
All right. Hi, my name is Isaac Gomez. I'm 16 years old, and I'm a junior currently attending High Tech High International. I'm here to promote the bullying, harassment, and intimidation prohibition policy. And I think the best way to do that is to share with you guys my story. So when I was in 7th grade, I came out as female to male transgender, not only with my friends and family, but also to my school. I was in middle school, High Tech Middle Media Arts, and I think they did a great job. My principal at the time was Alcil Torones, and I remember my mom went to go talk to him about how she wanted to make sure that I was safe because I was going to start my transition, I was going to change my name, and basically start becoming who I wanted to be. And she asked him if I could go to the bathroom in the nurse's bathroom just to be safe. And he said that he thought that the best way that I would be comfortable is by going into the bathroom that I identified myself with. So I started going into the boys' bathroom, and I felt completely comfortable. And now why I'm saying this is because I want to promote programs where training for schools to be this helpful and to help students transition and become more unified as a school, not make them different or make them stand out, but make bullying not there, I guess. So that's the easiest way I can say it, make everyone equal. And that's what my school did to me, and I just want to share that with you guys to try and promote more training for schools and get that in every school. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Hudson.
Good evening. My name is Mark Dillon, and I'd like to thank the board for the opportunity to speak. I'm here as the chairman of the Anti-Defamation League Regional Board and as a city commissioner on the San Diego Human Relations Commission. I think, though, that I've been outdone by the kids that preceded me in terms of the eloquence and the reason why it is a good idea for you to have done what you've done and to move this policy forward. Unfortunately, we're in a period of transition, and we can't wait them to get our age for this not to be an issue anymore. We have to step step in and help and assist in the social controls and institutions that will help them lead a normal life at the point where they are in their lives, so that when they get to our age, they can be talking about other issues instead of as we are here. I would, however, like to acknowledge some of the things that are being done, and the reason that your action is not a straw in the wind, but a straw that is bound together with others and other community organizations that are trying to do things. As you may know, the Human Relations Commission and the Anti-Defamation League are in the third year of sponsoring a cyberbullying conference for educators, administrators, and parents. That's going to be going on again this next month. The Human Relations Commission has been involved in this issue considerably. In fact, Nicole Ramirez, who I think is in the audience, was instrumental in working to bring this forward, and we have him and others to thank for helping surface this issue. Now, this is just a policy, and it will not make our children bully-proof, but it does provide guidelines for students' behavior and a clear statement of the district's intention to respond should bullying occur. In itself, it sets an example for the kind of behavior that's historically proven most effective to combat bullying in any time or place. Stand up to the bullies. Don't let them take control of the sandbox, or the street, or the country. By putting bullies on notice, they will not be tolerated. By giving clear guidelines for district employees on how to respond, we educate and empower our children to stand up for themselves. Because of your efforts, we're going to continue what we do, and we hope will be more effective because of your engagement in this issue. Again, thank you very much for hopefully passing this policy recommendation. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Jan Garbuski, and this is my wife, Bonnie Russell. We reside at 5194 68th Street, San Diego 92115. We are here as former San Diego Unified employees, having worked in this district a combined total of 62 years. We started as babies. The vast majority of those years we worked in integration programs in schools and at the district level, working toward gender and racial ethnic equality, including monitoring and evaluation of the district's court-ordered desegregation plan. Since 1990, we and other district teachers and administrators have been working to make schools safe for all students, parents, and staff, including those who are LGBT, despite fearing for our jobs and our own personal safety. Although the district's non-discrimination policy was expanded in 1992 and staff were trained, bullying and fear continued. Even a state law, AB 537, the California Student Safety and Violence Prevention Act of 2000, did little to lessen bullying, and you've heard about the continued bullying statistics. During our careers and since our retirements, we have been fearful that one day we would open the newspaper to find that a San Diego Unified student had not been able to continue tolerating the bullying and chose suicide. It's an honor for me to serve on the Safe Schools Task Force and experience the district's deep commitment at this time to prohibit bullying based on any and all perceived or actual characteristics. It's taken more than 20 years of hard work to get to this goal. Bonnie and I believe that implementation of this policy will do much to change the culture of schools and make them safe for everyone to learn, to work, and to participate in their child's education. Your vote for this policy and for Assembly Bill 9 will make that difference. Thank you so much.
Dear friends of mine, I've been very fortunate, other than dealing with Jim Crow in my life, I haven't had to deal with bullies, but I could well imagine how horrible that must be to show up at a school and to be messed with all the time. And in spite of all that you face today, nothing is more important than San Diego City Schools adopting a policy that would make schools safer for LGBT students. I just want to remind all who are present that this is an issue of equal rights, not special rights, as some would like to have us believe. So much in our country indicates that gay students still have a way to go to receive the level of protection that straight students receive, the validation as human beings deserving of love that all human beings need. I'm hoping you will unanimously, so that the kids will have absolutely no doubt as to how they're valued in your eyes, adopt this beautiful document that the Safe Schools Task Force has put together for their well-being. It's way past time, but what you're doing is cool.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Reverend Mary Sue Brookshire. You have my address on file. This evening, I'm representing California Faith for Equality and the 13 congregations throughout San Diego County that have identified bullying as an issue of great importance. Those standing with me here are representatives from the 10 congregations within San Diego City working on this issue, representing more than 3,000 members of their faith communities. Many are graduates of this district, have worked for this district, or will one day have a child or grandchild attending this district. For the past 6 months, our congregations have been engaged in a number of activities to gain knowledge and find ways to work together to make schools safe for all students, especially lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender students. It is with deep appreciation and gratitude that we as people of faith support the work already accomplished by the Safe Schools Task Force to bring you the draft of the bullying, harassment, and intimidation prohibition policy. We celebrate their work and your willingness to address this issue during such difficult budgetary times. You have many difficult decisions to make. I hope this one is easy. Your vote on this policy will affect the lives of untold numbers of students, family, and staff. Thank you so much for your efforts to ensure San Diego schools will be safe for everyone. You have our support and will continue to have our support in implementing this policy. Thank you.
There's not a lot left for me to say. I'm Dr. Dolores Jacobs. It's been my pleasure and my privilege to serve with Dr. Meyer as the co-chair of the Safe Schools Task Force. Working with the definitions of bullying provided by both California law in the Ed Code and California Code regulation, the task force has helped to devise this policy that is the first step in creating safer schools in this district. And tonight I want to just do two things. I want to thank you for your leadership and your vision in creating a partnership task force between educators, parents, community members. All of the available research on bullying and harassment says it will take all of us to create effective solutions to what is a horrific crisis in schools. Second, I'm here on behalf of all students, including LGBT students, those who are perceived to be LGBT, and the children of same-sex parents. I'm here to thank you for your support for this policy. In these contentious times, we believe with you that one of the things almost all of us can agree upon is that schools ought to be safe and children need to be free to learn, develop, and achieve. We applaud your efforts towards that end. We believe this policy is a step in that direction, and we thank you for your leadership, your support, and your protection for all students in this school district.
Okay, Mick Rabin, Eleanor Evans, and Doug Case.
Thank you, school board members, for hearing me speak today. My address is on file. My name is Mick Rabin, and I teach at Oak Park Music Conservatory. I often say that I specialize in the absurd, but I have some wonderful, fantastic, and fabulous students. Having taught in elementary school during the tenures of 5 superintendents, I can attest to the need for children of color and diverse racial, ethnic, and religious backgrounds to be protected from bullying, harassment, or intimidation. This kind of protection requires a curricular foundation and honest dialogue that affirms and acknowledges these students' cultural identities. It would be unthinkable for a teacher who works in a modern classroom to maintain a library and deliver a curriculum that neglected these children. But for the estimated 10% of the student populace who will grow up to become a part of the LGBT community, the current message is, we don't want to talk about you because some people will be offended. And frankly, we are not comfortable either. By ignoring these children, the message is that it's better to pretend that you're all going to be straight. We'll not talk about you, nor tell you that your life is of value, because it is better that you don't exist. No child should be faced with that kind of isolation and despair. No child should walk to school fearing for his or her life. No child should feel that it would be better to be dead than to appear at school. I can't imagine my own daughters ever feeling it that way. Can you imagine it for anybody else's child? I want to acknowledge the absolutely critical work that the Trevor Project, the It Gets Better Project, and GLSEN, the organization that I've been involved with for a decade now, that we've been doing to address the crisis that so many young LGBT people are facing at this time in American history. But I think that most people would agree that our respective organizations would expend far less energy and resources if we tackled this societal malady in ways that are more proactive than reactive. Embedding dialogue about the LGBT community that elevates their visibility to one of value and equality instead of as pejoratives and taboos is an absolutely crucial component of the San Diego Unified School District's path. I've taken on these challenges in my own classroom for more than a decade, but I know that most elementary and middle school educators, even those who are allies, feel like they won't be supported by their own district when they explain that the word gay is not a bad word, but rather a word that describes our neighbors, our colleagues, our best friends, and our family members. This policy is a clear message that my colleagues will be supported in protecting these students. I'm so pleased that Superintendent Koba, Assistant Superintendent Meyer, and the entities that comprise the Safe Schools Task Force have faced this issue with passion through an analytical lens, but most importantly, it has soldiered forward with an eye for action instead of the indifference and downright hostility that these students have endured for so long. As a parent of 2 children, a board member of GLSEN San Diego County, and a teacher in San Diego Unified School District for 17 years, I fully endorse this policy as the first of many steps toward the day where every student is met with affirmation and can feel safe and valued when they enter the classrooms and campuses of our schools. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Eleanor Evans, and again, I have to say everyone's been very, very eloquent in what they had to say. I am the female co-chair for the GLBT Caucus, CTA, as well as a board member for SDEA. And I'm also a product of San Diego Unified School District, and actually from first grade through 12th, and from first grade through my senior year, I was harassed, bullied, etc. There were times when I really didn't want to go to school. I thought about dropping out, and as fast as I could, I got through school. I also actually thought about and actually did attempt to do away with myself and end up throwing up. I just want to say, though, I had supportive parents, which for me was the key, but most GLBT students don't have that. Statistics show that 40% of students who drop out are, of that 40%, 70% are GLBT students. In terms of runaways, over 90% of the runaways are GLBT students or youth. And suicide, there seems to be, for want of a better word, an epidemic of middle school students who are attempting suicide because they've been perceived or actually are coming out as GLBT youth. We need this. San Diego, as far as I know, we haven't had the issues that other school districts have in terms of students doing those kinds of things, committing suicide or being done away with by their colleagues because of their sexual orientation. But we definitely need this policy, and I would ask you to support it. Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Doug Case, and I am the current president of the San Diego Democratic Club, an organization that advocates for equality for lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender people. I would like to congratulate and applaud the board on considering this item tonight, and would also like to especially thank the Safe Schools Task Force for their hard work on this effort. It's too bad that a series of tragic suicides have caused us to focus public attention on this important issue because it's been going on for generations. But I'm glad that our community and communities across the country are finally dealing with this issue. It has often been said that the true measure of the moral fiber of a society is how it treats and protects its most vulnerable, and I would suggest to you that the kids who are the targets of bullying are among the most vulnerable. A couple of suggestions that I would suggest to you in implementing this policy. Number one is to make sure that it's clear that the policy not only includes the protected classes that are included in the policy, but also those who associate those classes. In other words, for example, a couple of students tonight mentioned that they're allies, they're members of GSAs. They may not identify with or be perceived as being LGBT, but they are targets of harassment because of their association with them. Likewise, students who have LGBT siblings or LGBT parents also are often the target of discrimination and bullying, and they need to be protected too. Finally, I would encourage you to interpret broadly and as widely as possible the last phrase there of any other distinguishing characteristics. It's not just the people that are in those classes that are the targets of bullying. In particular, I would encourage you to include physical appearance or personal mannerisms because many of the kids who are the targets of bullying fall into those categories. Again, I thank you for your efforts and urge you to adopt this policy and also encourage you to adopt the resolution in support of AB 9. Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to accept the staff recommendation. Comments, questions? Mr. Barnett?
I want to commend the PASS board who started this process, and Mr. Beiser and President Barrera who've sat on this task force as well. You know, the promise of our country is that you really can believe, say, worship, or be whomever you want as long as you're not hurting someone else. And it's ironic that today, it was 150 years ago today, was the start of the Civil War, which ended up resolving, one of the worst stains in our nation. But it didn't end discrimination. And we still have discrimination today and have had it since our founding. And unfortunately, there will continue to be that. But I think policies like this and boards and people willing to work together and say that it is wrong and as public entities. So I fully support this policy and commend the board, past board, and current board members who've worked on it.
Jackson.
Again, I want to commend all the staff and the committee who worked on this particular policy. I know that from the visual that we did in October and the expounding of it to ensure that we had included every student. And while we know that we recognize the difficulties at the time, it's important for every student within our district to understand that we do not tolerate bullying of any kind and that our learning environment is safe. And we say that often, and we work very hard to ensure that, and this policy is just another one in that direction. So I'm proud to support this particular resolution tonight. Thank you.
Yes, I also want to join in commending this group, and particularly the community-based nature of all of this. I mean, this is what we're trying to do in the district, is being persons from the general community, parents and students all together, and this is a really good example of that. I'm also happy that we're acting now. There hasn't been a lot in the news recently across the country, but we're acting before there is a current major tragedy here. It reminds me of a lot of cases where there's a dangerous intersection and action is taken to put up a stop sign, after a tragedy tragedy or something has happened. Nevertheless, on another level, there's a constant tragedy going on, and as a psychologist, I deal pretty much on a daily basis with people who have scars from childhood for specifically different types of bullying, especially from the LGBT community as well as others. And I just want to comment that I know we have some good things going on in the district. I was at John Muir School a while ago, and there was a anti-bullying assembly, and it was very remarkable how they were really teaching the kids to work together, that there were ways without physical force to really use peer pressure to isolate somebody who was bullying others. And while this is very commendable and makes us feel very good to do this today, I really want us to follow up. I would like this particular task force to come back at another point and report to us on what difference it has or has not made. I know within the operational expectations, I don't remember the numbers of each one when we kind of visit current policies and programs in the district. This one would fall under one which covers learning environment, and I would hope at the time that we have the report on that we'll have an update on what's going on with this very good work. So once again, thank you very much for everybody who worked on this.
I want to also thank you to all of my friends and brothers and sisters that have come out this evening to support this very important beginning to creating a different climate and culture in our schools. The character is so important in the development of the children, not just in education, but also helping them to become good people. And this is very, very exciting for me on one hand and very, very emotional on another. This is an anti-bullying policy in our schools that will protect our children. The school district's primary role is to ensure students have a safe learning environment so that they can thrive. This is an important step to establish the expectation that we will act swiftly as a board, as a district, and as sites and schools to protect students and create a climate of tolerance, not hate. This is so important, and some of the stories that we heard from some of the students in our schools give pause. And I don't know about some of the other adults in the audience that remember what it was like to be in middle school or high school. For the taunting, the name-calling, being beat up in the locker room. Those episodes are so powerful at destroying children's lives. And we have to take a stand. We have to stand up for these kids in our care that are not being treated as equals. We have to create a safe environment and make sure everybody understands that you cannot turn a blind eye. You cannot turn a blind eye when you observe bullying of your students at your school. So I strongly urge and appreciate every single one of my friends on the board and in anticipation of a unanimous vote in support of this historic anti-bullying policy. And to Seth, who is the namesake of the next action item on the agenda, Assembly Bill number 9, Seth's Law. Seth was a 13-year-old kid who couldn't take it anymore. His mother complained to the school. He complained to the school. He couldn't take it anymore, and at the age of 13 killed himself. And for the other people that know what I'm talking about, no more. This resolution, these are words on a piece of paper, but we must make sure that we follow up and that they become action in a proactive, positive way to help the other children at our schools to understand what's at stake. Lawrence King, an 8th grader, had another student put a gun to his head in class and shoot. right in front of all the other students in the computer science class, right in front of the teacher. Well, we all know the story of Lawrence King. He passed away a couple days later in the hospital. You know, being a teacher of 7th and 8th and 9th grade students, I never want to have that happen at my school. I never want that to happen for any of our kids in San Diego. And so I really am grateful for the leadership of the superintendent, Mr. Koba, and Nellie Myers for her guidance and leadership with the Safe Schools Task Force. And I know that we will be continuing this process of refining the policies that we have so that we can have swift action, timelines, reporting guidelines for folks when they overhear, observe, or are aware of bullying of LGBT youth in our schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. And again, I'll just add my thanks to Dr. Meyer and to Dr. Jacobs for heading up this task force. Thanks to the community, actually, for having the courage to bring this issue forward in the first place, to work on putting this policy together. And especially thank you to the students who had the courage to speak tonight, to be leaders in your schools every day. We think about the students at Madison High School have taken such incredible leadership on these issues. So I think it's our honor as a board to pass this policy tonight. So with that, please vote. Barnett. Mr. Barnett, raise your hand if you support that. All right.
There you go.
All right, and now we'll move on to the accompanying resolution. Mr. Beiser.
Action item F3 is the resolution to support Assembly Bill 9. I'd like to personally thank Assemblymember Toni Atkins for reaching out to me and the board for support in her efforts to push Seth's law, introduced by Assemblymember Amiano. This Assembly bill will basically establish the law for the state of California that every single school district must pass an anti-bullying law and ensure that all LGBT youth in the entire state of California is protected. This is a very important piece of legislation because it speaks to the fact that that many school districts in the state have no reporting policies, there's a real need for to ensure that the people in all the schools in all the school districts have training and the resources that they need to support the students. And as I just mentioned earlier, the law, AB 9, is Seth's law, a little 13-year-old kid.
Thank you, Mr. Beiser. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? If not, please vote. Thank you, Mr. Beiser. Okay, we'll now move on to the Superintendent's Information Report and Administrative Assignments. Superintendent.
Thank you, President Barrera. We have one administrative assignment to note tonight. Lee Dugaroff from Director, Project Management Department to Executive Director, 2008 Capital Improvement Bond Program, Facilities Planning and Construction Department. If I could move on to comments. I have a couple items I just want to highlight and then defer to a couple of speakers. We have been returning from a spring break in the past week. I know that the campuses are shaking a little bit of dust and rust off and trying to focus. We have our standardized testing, the next 60 days of wrapping up the school year. I had two events I want to note. One is that I had a good visit to Roosevelt Middle School on Monday with Area Superintendent Dr. Hector Montenegro and with Principal Arturo Cabello. A very good walk-around, observations and discussions with staff. Roosevelt Middle is one of our IB schools, and what I'm really pleased to hear is the exchange between two IB feeder patterns that's ongoing now between the San Diego High and the Mission Bay High feeder patterns, because I think there's best practices and solid teaching and learning to be shared between the two, and we talked about that a little bit. My other item is that I was able to be at a ribbon-cutting ceremony yesterday at Neighborhood House. Remarkably, just barely 90 days ago, Rudy Johnson, the Chief Operating Officer, and I spoke about creating a safe haven, a safe academic haven for kids after school in one of our very high needs parts of the district. The Neighborhood House stepped up, have provided a computer room, staffed it with adult supervision, outfitted it with about 25 workstations, and are strongly encouraging middle and high school kids from around the area, providing them transportation to the site and allowing them to do their homework, provide that guidance, and even throwing in snacks. So I thought it was a great community engagement, another success story in partnering between the district and some very viable allies in the community. What I'd like to do now is very quickly is I've asked Bernie Reinerson and Ron Little. We don't have any formal line in the agenda tonight to talk about what's happening or what's not happening, either in the legislative or the budgetary world. Just 2 or 3 minute soundbite from the two folks that have been tracking this for us. Bernie?
Thank you, Superintendent, members of the board. What we wanted to talk to you very briefly about, and really for members of the public and those who are watching this presentation tonight, is where we are with the budget and what's going on with Sacramento. Today is day 100 of Governor Brown being in office. And we follow what the governor is doing every day. In fact, there's a column in the Sacramento Bee that talks about what he does every day. So day 100, his proposal was for a balanced approach to the budget with half cuts and half revenues. And he had been pushing the legislature to place a measure on the ballot in June for tax extensions that would have a significant positive impact on schools throughout California. And as this board knows, and we want our public to know, that would have meant another $40 to $50 million of revenue for our district and significantly changed the tough decisions that this board had to make. What I'm encouraged by is the governor hasn't given up. He is now visiting parts of the state where Republican members of the legislature are, taking his message about the tax extensions. And while we won't have a ballot measure on these available for the voters of the public to vote on in June, that doesn't mean that it couldn't happen in September, it couldn't happen in the fall. And I think where he's headed now is to look at what are his options in the legislature, what can the legislature do on its own, are there other options for an election. So I think the message that I'm hearing from the governor is let's not give up, let's keep the pressure on the legislature to solve this problem. Your resolution from this morning that Board Member Evans brought forward, calling on the legislature to pledge not to cut education any further, is something all of us would hope that every school district in the state of California would do. And we'll be delivering that with you and the board to our members and asking them to take that pledge, because we certainly know from the tough decisions your board has made what these budget cuts will mean. And if the option of an all-cuts budget is something that the governor has to bring forward in the May revise, we know how impossible that will be. So we'll be watching very carefully every day. Today is day 100. We'll be watching on every single day and taking that message to the legislature about the cuts to education, and really supporting our representatives and the governor to see if there are any options available. Right now, we're waiting for the May revise, and our CFO, Ron Little, will talk a little bit more about the fiscal impacts that we're looking at.
Good evening, board members. Thank you, Mr. Reinerson. I would like to share in Mr. Reinerson's encouragement and enthusiasm for the work that the governor is doing to try to encourage the electorate to come to the plate and to extend the taxes that are currently scheduled to sunset June 30th. As you know, we built our draft preliminary budget for next year not on the tax extension, but we did build it on the assumption that Prop 98 would be maintained and honored by our state legislators. And that, of course, provides a minimum funding floor for K through 14 school districts throughout the state. We know in our model that we built the draft budget on, we were anticipating Prop 98 being honored, but that the floor would be decreased by about $2 billion. And that's how we got to the minus $349 per ADA that we built the budget on, and the action that the board took last month, which was very painful and very difficult. The frustration, of course, that we all have is that we don't know anything more really than we knew a month ago, and that the level of uncertainty continues, not for lack of trying on the governor's part, but we're continually charged with offering the state a balanced budget and the county a balanced budget by the end of June, and we don't have the luxury of not meeting that earmark. With respect to the other two scenarios, so that's where we are. That's what we've built the budget on so far for next year. As Bernie mentioned, the tax extensions, if they materialize, probably one thing we could be certain of today that we weren't certain of 30 days ago is that the probability of those tax extensions coming to pass has been reduced. It's going to take a lot more work on the governor's part and bringing those Republicans on board to make sure that they get on the ballot or that some action is taken prior to going to the people for approval. If they were to be extended, certainly we would have some additional revenues to work with in an ongoing nature, somewhere around $30 million a year. Perhaps drastically and more frighteningly is the worst case scenario, which I won't spend a lot of time on, but that's the all cuts budget. I think we all recognize, including the consultants and the experts, that an all cuts budget really is undoable, and then the amounts of money and reductions that they're talking about are just draconian at best and impossible to enact at worst. They're looking at $650 to $825 per ADA reductions over 1 year's time. We know that to us that would mean an additional $35 to $55 million worth of reductions next year, and that would, of course, would be ongoing. Regardless of what scenario we're looking at, we also know that 2012-2013 presents a challenge of its own. So even with the action that the board took last month, we're still in the $65 million range with respect to that year's deficit. I just want to highlight some, as Bernie said, the May revise is really our next step. We have to wait until we hear a plan from Sacramento and a plan from the governor with respect to how we're going to move forward and what can we plan on with respect to K through 12 funding, whether it be with reductions or additional revenues. What we do until then, we have many people advising us about what to do, and I'm just going to share some of the advice. Certainly the county is part of that group. Certainly School Services of California is part of that group. Certainly CASBO, the California School Business Officials Society, is part of that group. I'm going to quickly go through these to let you know what they recommend and what we've been doing. Maintain reserve balances at the highest possible level. And as you know, we continue to manage and monitor our risks. We'll bring those to you again next meeting, and we intend to implement a spending freeze on the unrestricted side of our revenue and our expenditures effective next week. Number 2, establish a cash management plan to deal with the deferrals. We've shown you a cash management plan the last meeting at second interim, and at first interim we continue to update that and to amend that as necessary. We're finalizing the trans work that will certainly happen after the May revise, if not sooner, and we're looking at some accelerated timeline if possible. Number 3, use federal jobs bill money judiciously. And as you know, we've reported that we've used this federal job money to fund 244 elementary teachers this year with those restricted resources so that we could free up unrestricted resources to offset the deficit next year. So that was about $21.35 million. Number 4, initiate a hiring freeze for all positions. That's already in place. We continue to work with the direction that both deputy superintendents review all requests for hiring and approve them as they see fit. Number 5, develop a plan to close schools if necessary. Deputy Superintendent Stover reported yesterday at Cabinet that committee met again yesterday and continues to do that work and to look at the possibility of closing schools if necessary. Number 6, and only 2 more to go, maintain a seniority list in case there is a second layoff window. HR, of course, is maintaining that list and updating it as they need to. And the final one I'll just mention is the advice that do not rescind layoff notices given in March. And again, this is just, staying the course, not reducing the flexibility prematurely. And I would just add that, with respect to the risks that reported last time, we're looking at about $7 million worth of risks in the current year that were not built into next year's assumptions or this year's budget, and the $3 million at this point for the following year. So we have taken some good steps and some solid steps to shore our reserves up and to work towards the budget adoption at the end of June, and we're here to support and to encourage the board to do the same. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Little and Bernie, Superintendent. Okay, we'll move on to the board information reports. Mr. Barnett. Yeah.
Real quickly, I think the one activity I'll discuss is I had the opportunity to sit on a senior project panel at UC High School, and it was very enlightening to not only sit on that panel with a teacher, but with 11th grade students who will then be going through the final year. And obviously there's a lot of focus sometimes by people, but what doesn't work at schools in our system. But I would say it's a very inspiring process, and I encourage parents, community members, and others to participate in that and see not only the quality of the senior projects, which are required for graduation, but the types of diligence that the 11th graders and others put into learning, questioning, involved it. So it was an excellent experience. Thank you.
Jackson.
A couple of things. Just prior to our spring break, I had an opportunity to listen to the 5th grade violin at Fulton. They've been practicing for a while, and this was part of our music program, and this was the 3rd instrument they had been playing, and it was an enlightening experience. But this week I've been out with some high school, Crawford, IDEA, and CHAMPS, looking at their WASP accreditation interim visits. So that's been very nice as well. Last night I had the privilege of having 2 cluster meetings. They both wanted to be on the same night for, I guess, spring break reasons. Both Crawford and Lincoln, both of them had a great turnout. Both are preparing for the testing window that's coming up, and they both, not both, but there were some concerns raised across both of the groups, and concerns about the budget. And one request was that the board, we asked for a good budget that people can read, a readable budget to the public. And we know that we have to do one according to our ed code, but they like to have one that people can read, that the average Joe Blow can read. They were concerned about Area Soup rename and reorg, and we met this morning, and I think the consensus this morning that we would keep the Area Soup name, but we still not ready to do the reorg yet because of the budgetary items. And then they had a question. They asked me, and I can't answer the question yet. Was that the last board meeting, we delegated authority for principal selection to the superintendent and wondered what criteria he was going to be using for those selections. And I said, I don't know. Since we delegated to the superintendent, I guess he knows and he can share with us what that criteria will be. But I just want to say to both of those clusters and to the public, our cluster, we started this mission a little over a year or so ago with this board we did our 2020 vision, which was giving power back to the community. And I'm just very thrilled that these communities have taken a hold of it, and they're working. They both have working groups, committees, actually, as part of their cluster groups. So I'm, again, very proud of them. Thank you. And Superintendent, those 2 items are for you. Okay, thank you.
Dr. Evans.
Somebody's phone is ringing. Sheila. Okay. I'll have a couple of things, so I'll take Mr. Beiser's time also. There's a lot of focus here at the board in terms of the cuts that we have preliminarily made, and I think we really need to remember that at the state legislature that 2 votes in the state assembly and 2 votes in the Senate can change the entire direction of this district as far as K-12 public education. And I just wanted to share a couple of things from the last week or so. I got a note from a teacher and my response to her where she wrote, "My name is Ms. K. The recent massive layoffs that you've deemed necessary have not only directly affected me, but over 1,000 other highly qualified teachers and staff." And I would add that also, I'm talking about a teacher here, but it certainly includes all the classified staff as well. "However, I feel confident that you will be rescinding many, if not all, of these pink slips in the future. That being said, I'm urging you to do this quickly because I have to attend hearings very soon. I won't go into the details about that. This is my 8th year teaching in the San Diego Unified School District, my 8th year. And I feel that I am highly qualified and I have a solid understanding of my students' needs. I know from experience that the weeks before CST testing are critical for the teacher to be in attendance, and now we have these hearings to attend. If you're going to be rescinding many, if not all, of the layoff notices that you have issued, I urge you to do it before the upcoming hearing dates. It's in the best interest of the students and the school board. I understand this is a hard time for the school board because of the budget, and you're being forced to make many difficult monetary decisions. However, in the past, somehow the board has always come up with the funds. I hope you can do the same and do it quickly." And just sharing my response to Ms. K, I said, "This is a horrible situation that you're being put through after years of dedicated service to the kids in our schools. That's one of the reasons why I campaigned so hard for Proposition J to raise nearly $50 million, which would have cut our layoff numbers in half. Unfortunately, we did not have strong enough support from the voters. Now the governor is trying. His plan for a June ballot measure would have replaced some of that $50 million that we did not get from Proposition J. But the legislators did not come through in time. Now all of the layoff notices that we have issued may not even be enough for us to have a workable budget for next year. At this point, we have no idea how much more the state is going to cut us. Unfortunately, all the school board can do is work with whatever money we are given. One idea being discussed by some people at the state level is to cut 1 to 2 months out of the school year besides all of the layoffs. We are all, including myself, on unstable ground at this point. If they do not give us enough money to balance the budget, the state would take over the jobs of both the school board and the superintendent. And because the state is so delayed in paying us, we have to constantly borrow money and pay the interest. If we cannot keep getting these loans, we would not be able to meet payroll by the beginning of the school year. We have until June 30th to approve the budget, and I hope the state gives us a clear direction by May or June about how much money we can count on. Until then, there is not much we can do. The school board has no authority to raise the taxes needed to support our schools. The schools are being held hostage to the Republican and Democratic Party battles, and right now no Republican is blinking to save public education. It's in their hands, and they have the power and the authority to do whatever is needed, including raising taxes. We had to tentatively eliminate 900-plus certificated positions, as well as many more support staff. In the meantime, they're holding us all hostage. In the meantime, you need to do whatever you can by attending the layoff hearings and protecting your rights. I will keep you posted. I wish I could make this all go away, but this year is much different than previous years. The cuts the past 3 years have been cumulative, and now we are at the breaking point. And then following that, I just wanted to mention what was discussed this morning at a board workshop. We adopted a resolution to put the focus where it needs to be on the specific legislators who can, during the coming days and weeks, make an absolute difference. I believe Ms. Ward has put on the screen the resolution, which is very legally worded, but I'll just take out the key points. We've cut over $490 million over 5 years. To cut any more is going to cripple our system, is the second point. The third point is that the Board of Education is required to do two things: to safeguard the education of the children of San Diego and to protect the fiscal solvency of the district. As well, we've taken an oath to uphold the Constitution of the State of California, which guarantees free public education for all its children. The fourth point is that our responsibility to balance a budget and responsibility to protect education are at odds. The fifth point, that the school board has no authority to raise revenues that are needed for a successful educational program. And the next point, that the state legislature has the exclusive authority granted by the people of California to establish priorities and raise the revenues. The legislature can do this even if the governor wasn't trying. And finally, whereas members of the San Diego Legislative Delegation as a united front, just the 8 members here in San Diego, there are 5 assembly persons who are Mr. Hueso, Mr. Fletcher, Mr. Jones, Mr. Block, and Ms. Atkins, our 3 senators, Vargas, Anderson and Kehoe. Those are the 8 right within San Diego. We have the power with these and 1 or 2 others within San Diego County. If all of our local legislators were to support public education and to vote to raise the proper revenue for education, we would change the situation for the entire state of California. So we don't have to travel to Sacramento. We just have to go to the 8 offices of the legislators in our county. And we had part of the resolution is for the Board of Education calling upon the legislators who represent these same constituents to sign a pledge that they will not vote for any further cuts to education beyond what the governor has in his original proposal. The governor was realistic. He said we have to do half painful cuts and half increased revenue, continuation of taxes extension. And that is what we support, and we want everyone who represents San Diego to take a stand to say, yes, I will take a pledge to support public education, K-12 education in San Diego, or I will not, so that we will know where everybody stands. And we want to do this in a very public way so that the Board of Education would lead a group of educators, of parents, teachers, students, community members to these offices to get this message across so that when we come upon the following month, we will have a very clear picture. Now, this is something we need to do together. I had an idea, which I don't think the rest of the board necessarily agreed with, was to have basically with the passage of time last month, the June ballot measure died, which was our salvation. At this point, we really need to resuscitate the funding for public education. So I was saying we should have a funeral procession going from here to each of the offices of our legislators in San Diego to let them know they have the choice of keeping alive or letting die. We had our classified workers saying, if this worker doesn't show up, if this person doesn't show up, things are not going to operate. The buses are not going to arrive. The students are not going to be taken care of. This is the reality. And I'm taking over the role of a previous board member to be the doomsday drama person. to say this is, we can be optimistic that the governor is trying really hard, but it all depends on 2 people in the state assembly and 2 people in the Senate who live right here in San Diego County can change this, and we need to hold them responsible. Thank you for your attention. That was my board report. I took your time while you were out. I sounded double long.
No, that's all right. Normally you're very concise.
Normal.
Just having a lot of community meetings and site visits. Last night also attended the Gifted and Talented Education District Advisory Committee meeting. That was really very constructive, good opportunity for parents with a lot of children in our Gifted in Education program to have a dialogue with area superintendents and to learn more a little bit about educational opportunities and make sure that all of our children are realizing a year's worth of growth and that we're measuring that and that we're working at helping teachers to become more effective through professional learning communities, observing other teachers, and also that we're looking at what does rigor mean in a classroom and sharing ideas so that we can actually continue to increase expectations on children academically. Also working with Nellie Meyer on the progress towards classroom observation forms that are tied to California teaching standards. That's very important to me that we have some consistency in the district towards making sure that we're helping to support teachers to get better and improve the quality of instruction in all of our classrooms.
Thank you. Is Karen Childress Evans here? Karen, could you please come up? So I had the honor yesterday of representing our board at the National School Boards Association. We received just a terrific award from the Kennedy Center Alliance for the Arts as the National School District of the Year for our commitment to music education. Karen, could you maybe talk a little bit about what this award is about?
Oh, my. I sent you all this stuff. This is a very prestigious award. It is a school board award. This is not a VAPA award. This is a National School Boards Association award and a Kennedy Center for the Arts award. It's coveted. It comes with $10,000. Yeah.
Can we make sure that $10,000 goes to VAPA?
Yes. Yeah, thank you. No, I've got the check. You're not getting it. No. We're going to be using that $10,000 to fund a third grade exploratory visual art program next year for every third grader in the district. And that is really cool. I've been wanting to do that for a while. This particular award was very interesting because I know some of the people that have been telling me the progress of the award. As you know, we represented the state of California, and that was as far as I thought we were going to go because, I mean, you've got amazing cities with a lot of support. But the Kennedy Center and the National School Boards Association panel of judges were most impressed by 3 different things. The continuous support of the board over the last 4 to 5 years in face of $490 million worth of cuts. The second one was the amazing amount of things that we do in the department from K through 12, extensively dance, theater, visual art, and music. It's not just music, but it's all these different things. All of the in-depth integration and the number of classes, the types of courses that we involve our students in. And the third one that they kept saying over and over again in the judge's report was, how do you do so much with so little. And truly, the reason we can do so much with so little is because every single one of you up there in the school board, the previous school board members, everybody that's sitting up there right now, you understand, you get it. The superintendent has been 100% behind the visual and performing arts, and it's not like we're the favored child or anything. We are standards-based instruction, but it's good for kids, and it helps kids achieve. So this is what this award is about, and really I want to congratulate every single one of you up there, because excellent job. Thank you so much.
Karen, thank you for your leadership. Thank you to everybody in the department and the entire. We've got such a great community in support of music and the arts in San Diego, and it really is an honor. And it was pretty amazing to hear folks honor our district, specifically about what we've been able to do in the middle of the worst budget crisis that anybody's ever seen, and it was terrific. And the names of all five of us are on that award. Of course, the names of everybody in this district that educates kids every day should be on that award. But also, two other names should be on that award, and that's John DeBeck and Catherine Nakamura, whose commitment to music and arts was always steadfast. So thank you again for...
Thank you, and I want to have it hung right outside your door, please.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, can we get a motion to adopt the agenda? Please vote. Okay, consent agenda. Besides items E7, E22, E24, E26, and E27, which were withdrawn by staff.
E12 and E13.
Okay. Ms. Jackson wants to pull items E12 and E13. Any other board members? If not, can we get a motion?
I'll move the rest.
Do we get a second? All in favor, please vote. Items E12 and E13, and we'll take those up at the end of the meeting. Okay, let's move on to item F1, this personal financial literacy instruction. Superintendent.
Thank you, President Barrera. One of the things that we want to recognize as a valued part of a young person's education is financial literacy, and we've been able to sustain that program with a partnership. I think we've said that time and again tonight, that the success in the district comes largely to how we link together with those in the community. And I'd like to turn it over to Nellie, who has brought a team together, and you'll recognize a couple of faces from our past as well. Janet.
Yes, it is my pleasure and honor to introduce the financial literacy team. Before I bring up the first speaker, though, I'd just like to share that within our 12th grade economics classes, we teach this financial literacy course, and the course has been recognized nationally as something that we need and our students need. And it was recognized pre-recession, so now it is even more pertinent. So with that, I would like to introduce Matt Hayes, who is our program manager in social science, and he will start the presentation. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you. Good evening, President Barrera and distinguished board members. We're here tonight to present to you an overview of the district's personal financial literacy program. The Board of Education actually adopted this curriculum unanimously on April 22nd of 2008, and so tonight we wanted to present to you with an update as to the what's transpired since that was passed. And really, I'm going to step aside because I have with me a group of community members and dedicated educators who have been working on this program since its inception in 2005, and they'll talk about a little bit about the history of this and where we are today. I did provide for your benefit copies of the curriculum. I brought them over to the board office this morning so you can read them in all your spare time this evening, so you can get a little bit more background. But without any further ado, I'm going to pass it off to our retired Director of Community Relations, Janet Delaney, and she'll talk about the history of this program.
Welcome back.
Thank you. I just have to say, I've just seen one of my former students when I was teaching, Elvilia Kedabong. I don't know your last name now, but oh my gosh, she was a wonderful student. It's been many years. My name is Janet Delaney, and I retired from the district in June of 2009, and am back again and gave 33 years of my life to the district. And I love this district, and I think it's a great one. In 2005, the Community Relations Department, along with support from the School to Career Office, convened a meeting at Madison High School, and it included teachers, principals, business partners, nonprofits, along with the then presiding bankruptcy judge for San Diego. We discussed how we could provide an instructional program that focused on personal financial literacy for 12th graders. No single curriculum that we reviewed resonated with our teachers. It was decided that we needed to develop our own curriculum, and with that decision, teachers wrote and field tested a curriculum that came to be called Financial Literacy, the Game of Life. Teachers volunteered to field test the curriculum, and the units were revised based on teacher and student feedback. And we found that this curriculum began to really resonate with our students. And in turn, they were sharing the information they were receiving with their siblings and with their parents. For me, this whole effort sprung from a very simple question that I posed to students, a question that many struggled to answer. And this basic question was, what is the difference between a need and a want? Students were struggling with what the answer was to that question. And then, as Matt stated, on April 22nd, 2008, the Board of Education endorsed this curriculum because it was custom made by teachers here in this district, and we were sharing it with students that were just soaking it in because these were life skills that they could take with them when they graduated. So the committee's recommendation was that all San Diego Unified seniors receive personal financial literacy instruction embedded in the 12th grade economics course. Currently in California, there is no mandated curriculum on financial literacy. However, through our partnerships between private and public organizations, we believe we can get the word out and that this is needed. Our task force asked this board to please consider helping us advance a bill to Sacramento, making financial literacy a high school graduation requirement statewide embedded in the 12th grade economics class. I want to thank you all for allowing us to present today. I do want to say one thing, that financial literacy is not only about the basic skills of balancing a checkbook or computing interest rates, but the ability to use that information to make informed decisions about one's financial future and stability. I would like to thank Superintendent Koba for meeting with our committee several weeks ago. We appreciate that, and I think he was also impressed with our curriculum. Special thank you to Nellie Meyer, who has been with us from the get-go on this effort, and to my former boss, Bernie Reinerson, who we met a few weeks ago, and he also offered support as well. It is now my privilege to introduce John Hargrove.
Thanks, Janet. President Barrera, Superintendent Koba, and members of the board. I'm John Hargrove, a retired bankruptcy judge. And Christy Gregg, who's the Vice President of Community Relations at U.S. Bank, was here earlier tonight. She wanted to speak. She had another commitment, so she asked me if I would read her statement to you. And if you don't mind, I'd like to do that right now. Again, this is Christy Gregg, who's been a member from the task force from the beginning. And she said, the reason I got involved is this: while it is much more obvious in today's economy why it is so important to make sure our kids graduate from high school knowing how to manage their money, it was not as recognizable 5 years ago. Our economy was doing fine, and we didn't think too much about it as to whether our kids knew what a FICO score was or not. Some of us, however, including Judge Hargrove, knew the lack of financial education was going to come back and bite us. Coming from the banking world, I also would see the struggle of customers of our bank, their lack of knowledge about how to manage their money. Many banks provide financial education curriculum to both adults and in the schools, but it just wasn't enough, and it obviously wasn't working. Young adults had the attitude that I want what I want when I want it. They weren't thinking about how to pay the money back. Additionally, there were surveys done by California Jumpstart that indicated students who were tested for financial literacy missed more than 50% of the questions. Not a very good way to send them off to college or into the job market. So in the fall of 2005, under Janet Delaney's leadership and guidance, we established this task force. And I believe it was highly successful because we had all of the right people involved. Principals, teachers, school administrators, community members, and financial institutions. And we were all of one mind that our students needed to be taught financial education in the classroom by teachers. The financial institutions, as well as United Way, have paid for the development and implementation of this curriculum. It was a win-win for everyone involved. Now, while we don't have the outcomes at this point, I would guess that the impact of this curriculum that was designed by teachers for teachers will pay high dividends in the future. Thank you for allowing us to keep you appraised as to how we continue working to keep financial education in the classroom where it belongs. We welcome your continued support and hope you feel as we do that providing our students this curriculum, we will make a difference in their lives, and we will empower them to be happy, successful adults the way we want them to be. That's Christy Gregg, and again, she wishes she was here. She was earlier. Again, now I'm John Hargrove. I'm a 39-year-plus resident of University City. My three daughters went to University City High School, and Mr. Barnett, I had the pleasure also a couple of weeks ago of sitting on the senior presentation boards. I've done it for the past 5 years. And I got to tell you, I'm very impressed. The students prepare hard for these senior presentations, and the communication skills are outstanding. So, again, I echo your comments. I served as a United States Bankruptcy judge for 23 years. I retired in January of 2008. And I became a member of this task force from its inception in 2005. The reason I was asked by Janet Delaney, I had started in the San Diego Unified School District the CARE program, which was actually formulated by another judge in New York. And CARE stands for Credit Abuse Resistance Education. And a bunch of bankruptcy judges around the country saw the need to educate high school seniors about, in this case, credit cards and credit scores. We saw this huge rise, a huge spike in the early 2000s of bankruptcies filed by people in the 18 to 24-year-old age bracket. And the reason, the culprit, was credit cards. These were young people. Most of them weren't married. Some had student loans, but it was credit cards. And as one commentator calls it, demon credit cards. The kids just didn't know how to handle credit cards responsibly. So that led me to start the CARE program, which I still do. I retired 3 years ago. I am still involved in giving the presentations in the class. CARE has been rolled into, you might say, this program book, which consists of 11 lessons, and one of them is credit cards. The other one is FICO scores. I also want to advise you that one of the sitting judges now, Judge Margaret Mann, she's been on the bench about a year, is also interested in this program. She's going to be involved too. She wanted to be here today. She could not because of a prior commitment. Just one other point. I found it kind of interesting. Janet Delaney just gave me this information. Today, or not today, but this month is National Financial Literacy Month. There was a proclamation issued by the President Obama, the top guy, you might say. And the preamble reads this: Americans' ability to build a secure future for themselves and their families requires the navigation of an increasingly complex financial system. As we recover from the world economic crisis for the worst economic crisis in the generations, it is more important now to be knowledgeable about the consequences of our financial decisions. I understand you've been given a copy of this book. You probably have it back in your chambers, but read my opening quote in the front. I indicate that it is critical for students to increase their financial IQs. They cannot afford to learn the lessons of personal finance the hard way. The consequences are too great. And as a Banksy judge, I've seen this. The average college student carries a $3,000 balance on his credit card, his or her credit card. That, in addition, most of them have student loans, which they cannot get rid of in bankruptcy. So they're faced with tremendous financial burdens, those who go to college and come out of college. We get the feedback with a poor credit score, you have a very difficult time in getting a job. You have a very difficult time in buying a car. So I urge you to continue your support of this excellent program. I'm an outsider, so to speak. I know some of you were here in 2008 when we made the same presentation. So for you new members, please continue your enthusiastic support for the program. We on the outside, particularly the Banksy judges, appreciate it. Thanks.
All right. Thank you, Judge Hargrove, and thank you, Janet, and thank you, Matt.
We're the tag team at the end of that. I'm Vicki Banks. I'm a teacher with San Diego Unified at Hoover High School, and this is Ellen Towers, a teacher with San Diego Unified at San Diego High, and we are two of the teachers who actually wrote and put together this curriculum. So we just wanted to give you the update and hope that you will continue to support it.
Right.
Okay. When we began this, both Vicki Banks and I were career changers, so we had financial literacy and our backgrounds to make that career transition. We began with the end in mind to make sure all students should succeed in the real world. So many students were looking for the materials. Most of the materials, when we did look for them, were based on people that were already in trouble. Our students have the luxury at this time in their lives to learn before they get in trouble, and that's what we worked on. We wanted to make it teacher friendly, so we're both teachers and we've both taught the curriculum, as well as people that fill in can teach their curriculum right out of the box. We also did something beyond this in collaboration with the parents. We do in the back of the manual collaboration projects with the parents that are required for them to talk about budgeting for your senior year, which costs on average between $500 and $500 to up to $1,000, that the parents open up the discussion. Most parents are more comfortable talking about sex than they are about talking about finances, and we wanted to start that dialogue with the parents. And finally, Vicki and I have been asked, because of your support of our curriculum, we've been asked to serve on the state level. They love our curriculum so much that they asked us to join in writing curriculum for the banking and financial curriculum for the state level, and we're going to be going up to Napa next week.
All right. Well, great.
Finally, we just want to tell you that as long as you continue to support us, we're going to continue to update this curriculum. It currently has not been updated for the last couple of years, and we have spoken to Superintendent Koba and Deputy Superintendent Meyer about those updates. We have plans right now. It doesn't cost the board or the district anything. We're getting our own funding through the United Way, who has funded us in the past. We'll be updating the curriculum to make it current to 2011, putting it available on the district's website, and then hopefully also beginning to create lessons that can be incorporated into our new I-21 technology. So we're hoping for your support.
And Janet would like me to mention again to work at the state level to make it mandatory in the economics 12th grade class. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Okay, that was an information item. Let's move on to item F4, and this is a revision to our policy to include specific anti-segregation language for education of homeless students. Can we get a motion?
Of course, I move approval.
Okay, and we get a second? Any discussion?
Just a quick
Yes,
comment. Certainly this is very important, and given in our economic climate today, we have more and more homeless students. And I know this is required because we receive some funding for these students. But again, it's a necessary item that we make sure that these students are getting their educational needs met as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Please vote. Thanks. Okay, on to item F5. This is the notice to remedy to Promise Charter School. Superintendent.
Thank you, President Barrera. And if I could have Moses Aguirre to come forward. What I'd like to do, if I could, have him stand for both F5 and F6. These are next process actions that we bring to the board tonight for approval with regard to correcting items that we have uncovered as a result of an investigation at 2 charter schools. And I'll turn it over to Moises at this point.
Good evening, board members and superintendent. This evening we have before you an action item to authorize staff to issue letters to remedy to Promise Charter School in this particular item. As charter schools retain their nature as publicly funded educational institutions, Promise Charter School is obligated to meet the requirements of its charter, comply with applicable laws, operate in a fiscally responsible manner, and ensure pupil outcomes as set forth in its charter. The district as the chartering entity is responsible for monitoring Promise's compliance with these obligations, which requires the district to take action in the face of deficiencies in the charter school's operations. This is done by issuing a notice to remedy violations, a public document that affords the charter school an opportunity to fix the violations it has committed. If the charter school fails to do so, the district may issue a notice of intent to revoke the charter. Earlier this year, the district and the Board of Education were presented with information alleging serious and ongoing misconduct by Promise Charter School, including but not limited to the issues with the charter school's governance, student discipline, conduct towards staff, charter compliance, principal qualifications, health and safety of staff, and student issues with the school site council and fiscal management. The district has conducted an extensive review of Promise's operations, including interviewing witnesses regarding the allegations presented to the district, requesting 25 different categories of documentation from Promise, and thoroughly reviewing and analyzing all of the documentation produced, making site visits to Promise under district statutory authority as well. The district's review revealed several violations of the charter, the laws applicable to charter schools, and fiscal mismanagement. Based on an evaluation of all the information gathered, district staff has concluded the following. Promise committed material violations of its charter by failing to comply with the charter's elements on the charter school's English learner program, extended instructional hours, class size restrictions, pupil outcomes, governance, school site council, administrators' qualifications, staff evaluation, and student discipline. Promise committed several violations of law, including Charter Schools Act, Brown Act, Corporations Code, Conflict of Interest laws, child abuse reporting laws, several provisions of the Education Code by which Promise is bound, constitutional provisions is applied to school uniforms, and Federal Education Rights and Privacy Act. Promise engaged in serious fiscal mismanagement by failing to comply with governmental accounting and auditing standards, failing to retain documentation of transaction summaries, cash receipts and disbursement, allocation of Title I funds, to legal fees by the SSC, failure to maintain cash flow worksheets, as well as engaging in various misconduct with financial implications. And the magnitude of these violations calls into question Promise's ability to meet or pursue the pupil outcomes as identified in its charter. Given the seriousness of these violations, on top of the fact that Promise has been uncooperative with the district's efforts to provide oversight, district staff believes that swift action is necessary to ensure the protection of the parents and students who have placed their trust in this charter school. Moreover, the district's oversight obligations require it to take action in the face of violations of the charter and applicable law and fiscal mismanagement. Therefore, district staff requested the board authorize staff to issue a notice to remedy to Promise Charter School. Pursuant to the board's authorization of the notice to remedy, Promise will be obligated to remedy the cited violations by May 20th of 2011. The district also requested the charter school to provide an update as to its progress towards remedying these violations by April 29th of 2011. Depending upon the charter school's response, the district will determine whether further action up to and including initiation of revocation proceedings should be taken.
Move approval.
Second. Okay, we've got several speakers. So,
okay.
Yeah. So I'm going to limit testimony to 1 minute apiece. Kevin LaChapelle, Sheila Solorzano, Marissa Dragoo, Lisa Berlanga, Stephanie Hernandez.
Good evening, board members. Promise Charter School is a successful charter school with one of the highest API scores in our community for 2010. Keep in mind, just months before this, we received notification of being placed in program improvement in 2010. We want to know what is behind the district's animus. Why is the district not championing our success? During city school site reviews for 2 years, Bill Taylor, another Promise board member, and I were told of the systemic problems, many of which you mentioned in this report, and a lack of proper governance at Promise, even giving us advice on the changes needed. In fact, City Schools rep was present during our board meeting when a sitting member was removed due to having a felony conviction for carjacking. As soon as the self-appointed leader lobbied members of this board, everything changed. No longer was there cooperation from the charter school office. It turned adversarial. Promise Charter School Principal Mr. Orozco had made more progress in correcting the issues of this school than in its history of 8 principals that have most have been ousted. I would ask the members of this school board to be objective and see that there is obviously more to this story than you have been told. Since members of this board began inserting itself in the day-to-day operations of Promise, it has undermined some of the needed changes. Interestingly, you report faults Mr. Orozco for not having an admin credential, yet you approved that charter information amendment removing that requirement after Pam Clark made the change. I ask you, Mr. Barrera, and you, Ms. Jackson, to reconsider your staunch loyalty to Pam Clark, as she is the one who has orchestrated the ouster of numerous former principals of Promise. I ask you for your cooperation, for your time, so that you can review all the facts and be impartial in this matter. I ask you to be fair and to provide this high-achieving school with the support it deserves from its chartering agency. How many more principals need to be ousted before you realize that when you have someone willing to have the courage to change inappropriate behavior that have been systemic for years, you as the chartering agency should support that. I was impacted
Thank
this
you
evening.
very much.
Just real quick, just a few more words. I was impacted this evening with Mr. Beiser, his passion for advocating for young people being bullied, and for you, Mr. Barrera, and all of your support throughout the state for funding issues. And you guys take hits for those kind of things, but you do it because you know it's the right thing to do, even if it's not popular. Likewise, Mr. Orozco and our board, we knew we had to stop the conduct and stop the things that had gone on for years. Thank you all for everything you do for our students and for our families. Thank you.
Good evening, President Barrera, Superintendent, board members. My name is Sheila Solorzano, also known as Sheila Solorzano Ibarra, up until recently. You have my address on file. I am a retired administrator with over 30 years' experience as a classroom teacher, resource teacher, curriculum writer, both site and central office administrator, and most of these years here with San Diego Unified School District. Currently, I am working as a part-time teacher at the Ballard Center with the district's Parent Engagement and Outreach Department, and most recently, I started working at Promise Charter School. Mr. Orozco enlisted my services to assist him with both the instructional and the academic components. I have been working closely with Mr. Orozco for about a month, providing my professional expertise as he continues resolving the numerous concerns he encountered upon accepting his position as principal of Promise Charter. Accepting this position has allowed Mr. Orozco and me together the ability to carefully analyze the situation and issues at hand, many of which are the same issues and concerns you have outlined in your recent letter to Mr. Orozco and the Promise Board. These are exact issues Mr. Orozco voiced to me when we first met, and which we had. I can say without reservation that based on my experience as an administrator, working alongside with Mr. Orozco, coaching him, providing the necessary instructional leadership, the instructional issues in question can and will be resolved. Promise is moving towards being a compliant, high-performing, child-centered school with the academic progress and the welfare of every student is at the forefront.
Thank you. Okay.
Good evening, President Barrera, Superintendent, and board members. My name is Marissa Dragoo, and I'm an attorney for Promise Charter School. I'm here to mention a few different things. First of all, I wanted to let you know that it really is very disappointing that this board has decided to act contrary to the MOU in the district in not providing this 35-page legal document, essentially this notice to remedy, directly to the charter or to its legal counsel. Now, certainly there's no legal prohibition against this. and the district can provide public access of this document as it wishes, but it really doesn't evidence an investigation that's conducted in good faith, and Promise would really like to know from this district whether it's truly amenable to working with the school and considering certain changes at this charter school, or whether this is really just a one-sided investigation or pretext to revocation. Also, Promise Charter School is being asked to respond to this 35-page document in less than 30 days when the investigation of the district actually exceeded 60 days to conduct. That just seems entirely unfair. Also, Promise would like to know whether the extent of the investigation and the demands being made of this school are being uniformly applied to all other charter schools as well.
Thanks very much.
Hi, Lisa Berlanga, California Charter Schools Association. I, too, am disappointed. I actually supported the investigation when the charter schools called and were nervous, said that the board is responding to parent concerns. They have to do something, so work with them on the investigation. Once the investigation is complete, we can sit down and talk about the findings and work, and that didn't happen. There were no interim meetings. There's been no communication. We jumped from, complaints and investigation to very formal. You're beginning the revocation process with these two charter schools, and to my knowledge, that has not happened in San Diego Unified before. So we're missing a bunch of intermediate steps. Also, especially in Promise's remedy, there's a lot of citations that we would not agree, again, overstepping. This is the education code that charter schools have to follow and that are applicable. As you see over here, your general counsel has the one that district schools have to follow. There's a big difference in the size of ours and the size of yours. So I would ask that the board make sure that all references to Ed Code are actually applicable to charter schools. Promise has been struggling. They've made great academic progress. This year was significant, over 800, but this problem did not start with Mr. Orozco and Mr. LaChapelle. This has been going on for a long time. Two principals have not made it very long at the school. This is something that's been ongoing, and they need support.
Mi nombre es Stephanie Hernández, de 7 grado, Promise Charter School. Buenas tardes a todas y gracias por darnos una oportunidad a todos los estudiantes que nunca pensé que nos iban a hacer caso. Me siento tan humillada que yo ya no quería venir a la escuela, por lo tanto de mi parte les vuelvo a dar las gracias. Mis padres me enseñaron a respetar a mis mayores y yo con todo el respeto se las doy, pero cuando te humillan diciéndote estúpida, abnormal y mentirosa, no se merecen mi respeto, al cual les doy gracias a mis padres que me apoyan a que nos ayuden a sacar a maestra Miss Pierce y el director Orozco, que no tienen nada de ética y nos tienen intimidados todo el tiempo. Les pedimos su cooperación y muchas gracias.
Good evening. I'll be interpreting for Stephanie. Hello, my name is Stephanie Hernandez. I'm a 7th grader from Promise Charter School. Good afternoon to everyone, and thank you for giving us the opportunity, to all the students, something I never thought that you would pay attention to us. I feel so humiliated that I did not want to go to school. So once again, I thank you. My parents taught me to respect my elders, and I do respect them. I give them all my respect, but when I am humiliated being called stupid, abnormal, and a liar, they don't deserve my respect. And I thank my parents for supporting me. I ask you to please help to get rid of Mrs. Spears and Principal Orozco. Because they have no ethic, and they're always intimidating us all the time. And so we ask you for your cooperation, and thank you very, very much.
Hi, good night to everybody. My name is Lorena Granda. This is my child's first year at Promise. Promise was a positive choice for my family. From the neighborhood school, my daughter didn't have such positive experiences at our neighborhood school. I am a product of San Diego Unified School District. I arrived to this country as an immigrant, not speaking the language, and I went to the neighborhood schools. And I feel very strongly about not busing my child out of my neighborhood. Unfortunately, she couldn't attend the neighborhood school because, like I said, she had very negative experiences there. And Promise to my family was a very positive choice. and I enjoy the commute, me being able to drive my daughter and have it that ride in the morning. I know that changes always bring upon some sort of chaos and some sort of resistance. I choose to remain neutral. I am very shocked to see like the protest and the protesting outside of the school. At one point in time, I did question the fact, was I right to move my child from the other school to this school, and hearing about all the problems. However, I do choose to remain neutral and objective in this situation. I do understand that change brings all this chaos, but I also believe that change with planification, clear objectives, collaboration from the parents, the teachers, the student, the administrations can and if we leave the past behind and acknowledge the fact that Promise Charter School does not belong to the old teachers or to the older students, that the community, that school belongs to the community, and whether we're manipulating children to speak up and come up with stories. I don't want to hear it. I'm coming in the mornings to drop off my child. I want my child to not be scared to see all these people handing out flyers. I don't want my child to feel intimidated. I don't want to feel intimidated. I don't want to question myself when I drop off my child on a public school. Just to wrap it up, as a parent, I trust that all parties in this matter carry themselves in a professional manner, that both parties in this matter keep in mind the focus that the children here, the education of the children here, it's at stake. And I encourage the board members to please accept the remediations that the current administration is proposing. I trust that the changes are going to be, if they're embraced, and like I said, it promotes collaboration, it can be worked out. And,
Thank you.
Charter school is a positive choice, like I stated, for my family. So please consider that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Francisco Cortez, Maribel Rangel, Jose Valencia, Ramiro Batista, Cindy Rios, and Jose Orozco.
Primero que todo, buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Maribel Rangel. Soy una de las 76 familias que fuimos que firmamos una carta en total de 128 alumnos en la escuela de Promise Charters. Antes que nada, muchas gracias por habernos escuchado a todos esos padres de familias por todos los problemas que están pasando en Charter School. Bueno, mis hijos no deseaban venir a San Diego, nosotros venimos de Tijuana por problemas familiares. Nos tuvimos que venir a San Diego, y antes de poner a mis hijos en la escuela Promise Charter School, agarré referencias de esa escuela. Me dieron muy excelentes referencias de la escuela y de los maestros. ¿Cuál fue mi sorpresa? Que al poco tiempo corrieron al maestro Tirado, que era el maestro de mi hija Stephanie Hernández. Excelente maestro, recomendado por una sobrina mía con grados excelentes que está a punto de graduarse. Entonces yo inscribí a mi hija Stephanie en esa escuela, pero no para que me la insultaran ni me la humillaran, como diciéndole estúpida, ni abnormal, ni mentirosa. Por lo tanto, es el segundo idioma de mi hija, el inglés, y yo lo único que pido es que cambien la mesa directiva, cambien al director, saquen a la maestra Spears y que quiten todas las irregularidades que hacen, en vez de proteger a los alumnos, miren como sus enemigos. Ellos son unos niños y se sienten intimidados. Por lo tanto, nosotros no pedimos que cierren la escuela como andan los rumores. No queremos que todo el sacrificio de los maestros Tirado y Valencia y los demás maestros fueran fueran de casa en casa invitando a escribir a sus hijos se ha echado a la basura. Y por último, yo quiero decir a esa madre de familia que la Junta de PTO nos dijo ignorantes. Yo le quiero decir que si sus hijos los hubieran tratado como a mi hija, también aquí estuviera.
Okay, thank you.
Muchas gracias.
I'll be interpreting for Ms. Rangel. First of all, good afternoon to all of you. My name is Maribel Rangel, and I am one of the 76 families that signed for a total of 128 students from Promise Charter School. Before anything, thank you very much for listening to us, to all the parents, for all the problems that were occurring at the charter school. My children did not want to come to San Diego. We came from Tijuana because of family problems, but we had to come to San Diego. And before enrolling my two students at any school, I tried to get information about where to enroll them, and I had very good references for the teachers and the school. And I was very surprised that very soon after that, after my children started going to school, the problems began. For instance, they fired Mr. Tirado, who was my daughter's teacher and who was an excellent teacher, recommended by one of my nieces. And so I did not enroll my daughter Stephanie Hernandez so that Mrs. Spears could be humiliating her that way, calling her stupid, abnormal, and a liar, only because she doesn't understand her, because my daughter is barely learning a second language. And so we taught our children to respect the adults, and the only thing that I ask is that you please change the school board to please remove Principal Orozco and Mrs. Spears because of all the irregularities that have occurred. What they do, instead of protecting our students, is that they see them as their enemies. They are children and they feel intimidated. That is why we're asking you not to close the school, as the rumors are saying. We don't want all the sacrifice that the teachers made, Mr. Tirado and Valencia, and all the other teachers, about going to our houses and inviting us to enroll our students. We don't want all that to be thrown away. And lastly, what I want to tell you is that as a parent, what I would like to say is to the mother of one of the parents at the PTO meeting that called us ignorance, I would like to tell her that if her children had been treated the way my children were treated, they would be here as well. Thank you very much, and again, I repeat to you that we don't want you to close the school. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Ramiro Bautista, parent of two students of Promise Charter School. Quiero expresar públicamente, en representación de más del 60% de los padres que representan aproximadamente 76 familias de Promise Charter School, nuestro más sincero agradecimiento por haber escuchado y tomar en cuenta nuestra voz. Estamos convencidos que tomando acción inmediata a las recomendaciones sugeridas por ustedes, nuestra escuela trabajará mejor, con transparencia, legalidad, respeto y democracia en beneficio de la educación de nuestros hijos. Creemos que las irregularidades, la falta de respeto hacia los alumnos, maestros y padres, la ilegalidad, indisciplina y abusos cometidos por la presente dirección del plantel se está afectando directamente y poniendo en riesgo el desarrollo académico de nuestros hijos. De igual manera, queremos evitar que nuestra escuela se cierre a causa de todas las irregularidades, corrupción y abusos cometidos por el señor José Orozco, el presidente de la mesa directiva de la escuela, y sus demás integrantes. Es por ello que estamos a sus órdenes para corregir todo esto y evitar el cierre del plantel. Trabajaremos arduamente, maestros, padres y comunidad, con transparencia, legalidad y respeto para mejorar día a día el rendimiento académico de los alumnos.
Okay, thanks. Thank you.
I would like to I'm going to interpret for Mr. Ramiro. I would like to publicly express that representing more than 60% of the parents that represent apparently 76 families at Promise Charter School, our most sincere thanks for having listened to us and having listened to our voices. We are convinced that taking immediate action on the recommendations that you have suggested, our school will work much better with more transparency, legality, respect, and democracy, and it will benefit the education of our students, of our children. We believe that with the irregularities, the lack of respect towards students, teachers, and parents, the illegality and the lack of discipline and abuses committed by the present administration, it is our children's academic development is being affected directly and being put into risk. We would like to avoid that our school for our school to not be closed because of these irregularities, corruption, and abuses committed by Mr. Orozco, the president of the school board, and the other members. That is why we are here for you, to correct all this and avoid that our school be closed. We will work hard, parents, teachers, and community, with transparency, legality, and respect, to better every day the academic achievement of the students. Our goal is to reach and make better the grade of 106 that was obtained last year, thanks to the effort of the students and the dedication of the teachers and the dedication of the students, and not to Mr. Orozco, who this achievement is attributed to.
Okay, thanks. Yep.
Thank you.
Good evening, board members and superintendent. My name is Francisco Cortez. This is my first year at Promise Charter School. Well, the reason I am here is to let you know how I felt this last month. With Mr. Tirado, I felt like I was learning, especially in math. I was glad on myself when I got a 3.5 with Mr. Tirado. When Mr. Orozco told us that we were going to be in two different groups because supposedly more than half of the class had been failing, I got sad because it was fun learning with Mr. Tirado. After everything changed, I felt like I wasn't learning with my new teacher named Ms. Spears. Whenever someone needed help, she would ignore them. I wanted to talk to Mr. Orozco, but he didn't listen. One day he told me to get out of his office. I got mad because how does he want me to respect him if he doesn't give me the rights to tell him how I felt? One day, Ms. Spears told me that she was going to suspend me and three of my other friends. Also, she was going to suspend my friend Elizabeth because she hit herself, and I just started laughing. She sent me to the office with Mr. Orozco to talk, and he suspended me for 2 days. I expect him to take away that suspension from my record. I'm not going to let him ruin my future. Ms. Spears is not a great teacher, but Mr. Orozco makes it seem like she's a professional for middle school. How can someone suspend me for just laughing? For me, that's the most lame reason to suspend someone. Okay. Right now with Ms. Spears, I have 3.0, but I have 3.0 because she makes us do
Thanks, Francisca.
Great stuff.
Good job. Thank you.
My name is Cindy Rios. I was a student in Promise Charter School for 6 years. Promise was the kind of school you wanted to get up early in the morning for. Everyone was like a second family to me. If you ever had troubles at home, going to school was the best way to forget about it. I loved going to school, and not every 8th grader can say that. This school was unlike other schools. Learning was actually fun. The teachers taught us fun methods to remember facts in our studies. The teachers actually cared about our grades. They would give us extra help if we needed it. It was great. When Mr. Orozco came to Promise as principal for the first time, he was kind and polite. However, the next school year, he had changed completely. He punished us for not wearing uniform, when last school year he really didn't enforce the uniform policy. He punished us by making us stand in a line, no matter what the weather was, hot, cold, or raining. As he had said himself, we had to stand in that line. He changed the school completely. Students' voices weren't being heard. Most of the time, he wouldn't let us speak. And when he did, he would change the subject. Because of his disrespect towards others and me, and the way he is slowly tearing our family apart, I left the school. I hope for the sake of my younger brother and sister that Promise can go back as its caring, loving, and academically challenging environment. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Good evening, board members and superintendent. My name is Jose Valencia. I have been teaching for 14 years. This will be my 9th year teaching at Promise Charter School. First of all, I'm here to thank you for conducting the investigation and validating the concerns of many parents and teachers of Promise Charter School. So thank you. I'm also here to let you know that out of all my years at Promise, this has been the most difficult to endure. I have witnessed the destruction of a promising learning environment, a wonderful environment that took 8 years to create, an environment that consisted of high academic expectations and outstanding collaboration. The current administrator, together with the support of the current board, pushed 29 of our top performing students out of our school. These were students whose parents spoke out against his dictatorship. Furthermore, in January, the administrator, together with the board, chose to let go of an experienced, dedicated 7th grade teacher, a teacher who had been with the Promise community for the last 7 years. No reasons given, just because they could. Lastly, it took 8 years of hard work and dedication from students, parents, and teachers to surpass the API of 800. And I find it shameful that a brand new administrator with no administrative credential and no teaching experience has tried to take credit for all the hard work and our accomplishment of 806. This 806 belongs to the students, parents, and teachers. Thank you.
Thanks.
Good evening, board members. Superintendent Bill Coba. My name is Jose Orozco, and I am the principal for Promise Charter School. I have read the report, and I found that many of the allegations are false, but there are others which at some point were true. But we have already corrected them. Since I started last year, we have brought proper governance, fiscal stability, and increased our student achievement. Before you take action tonight, please consider the effects of your timeline. Our students in a few weeks will initiate their STAR testing. During that time, our teachers and students need to be focused, as it is important that they succeed on their exams. That's what they've been preparing for the last several months. Given us 28 business days to respond to a 35-page report, it will put unnecessary stress to our teachers, our students, and hence the deadline is unreasonable. I ask that you consider this time, and I ask that you consider the approach to our charter school as it is aggressive and as unfair as well. Thank you.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second to approve the staff recommendation. Any further comment from board members? Mr. Barnett?
Excuse me. First of all, I just want to state, I guess for the record, that I have in the last several weeks met on 2 occasions, once with several Promise teachers and parents at their request, and then also with Principal Orozco at his request, and told them I'd listen to their concerns, which I did. And but I think it's also important to know that the district's action tonight is not to revoke the charter. The district's action tonight is to ask that responses be made to violations that our staff found in their investigation. And I expect that there will be a good faith effort to respond to these allegations, and it's all part of our fact-finding process in order to make a objective decision. Bottom line, clearly there's a lot of dysfunction going on at the school. I don't know what the ultimate blame, responsibility issue is, but when you have a school that's this divided, there's something wrong, and we need for the kids' benefit to ultimately resolve that. So I do support the motion, and I urge the staff and the board of Promise Charter to act in good faith to respond to all the issues we've raised, and then I, along with the other board members, will review those when they're returned. Thank you.
Any further comment? If not, please vote for the staff recommendation. Okay. Move on to item F6. Item F6, this is the notice to remedy Harriet Tubman Village Charter School. What's this?
Again, good evening, board members and superintendent. The district received information alleging serious misconduct at Tubman Charter School, and accordingly, the district initiated a review of Tubman's operations. Based on an evaluation of all the information that was gathered, district staff concluded that Tubman committed material violations of its charter by failing to comply with the charter elements on governance and Brown Act compliance, and Tubman committed other violations of law, including Charter Schools Act, Brown Act, Corporations Code, and Educational Employment Relations Act. So given the seriousness of these violations, district staff believes swift action is necessary for the benefit of parents and students who have placed their trust again in this charter school. Moreover, the district's oversight obligations require it to take action in the face of violations of the charter and applicable law. In light of Tubman's violations of the charter and the law, district staff requests the board authorize the superintendent and staff to issue the notice to remedy. Pursuant to the board's authorization of the notice to remedy, Tubman will be obligated to remedy the cited violations or respond by May 13th of 2011. Depending upon the charter school's response, the district will determine whether further action is required at that time.
Move approval.
We've got a motion and a second. We've got, again, several speakers that will limit to 1 minute apiece. Lisa Berlanga, Michelle Mead, Bo Moorman, Paul Liebman, Lydia Shinsky, Elizabeth Morris.
Thank you, President Barrera. Lisa Berlanga, California Charter Schools Association. I'm glad to see that the two schools have been separated all along. It's been one issue. It's not one issue. It's two separate schools with two separate issues. The report's pretty obvious. There's big differences between the two. Again, a little disappointed. This, in particular, I think could have been resolved in a much less formal way. When it gets to this point, it's a remedy to notice that requires attorneys. Charter schools don't have a lot of money to pay for attorneys, but now they're forced to spend money. They're in the same budget situation you are on attorneys to resolve what you have presented with them. Again, I wish there had been informal communication before this step. One of the issues that's cited in here is the lack of a contract between the teachers and the teachers union and Tubman. And one of the reasons for that is that the union is suggesting that Tubman accept the SDA contract that was developed for the district. The district is 130,000 students, correct, and 180 schools. That contract does not fit Tubman of 300 students and 20-some staff members. Tubman deserves their own contract, and that's not falling on Tubman. That's something that needs to be worked out.
Good evening. My name is Michelle Mead. We are speaking in favor of item F6 because this is such an important statement about the future of Tubman Charter. We love our school. We, our parents, and our students demonstrate our commitment to Tubman through our hard work and many accomplishments. Tubman is a wonderful school, and there is a strong support in our community for these changes. We truly appreciate your hard work on our behalf in bringing forth this report. These changes will help our school. Thank you for demonstrating that the voices of parents and teachers matter in San Diego Unified. We all want fairness and justice for our school. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Bo Moorman, and I'm one of the PTSA presidents, and I have a fourth grader. It's my first year there. I'm here in support of Principal Lydia Sinsky at Tubman Charter. The school is moving in a positive direction, and ADA scores went way up. I thought everything was great until the fall of 2010 when the teachers and union members dropped the bomb on the parents at the school saying that Mrs. Sinsky was unfair and unjust. I went to the teachers' first meeting with the agreement that it was not going to be a he said, she said high school drama, which it was. There was so much drama there, I thought Snooki was going to show up. A couple of parents told some stories that did not hold water. I personally thought it was a form of a lynch mob. I returned to the school the next morning, spoke with Mrs. Sinsky. She easily justified all the misinformation. As far as the union goes, I dropped off my son one morning in front of the school. There were teachers and union people handing out flyers that were negative and had misinformation. I thought it was unprofessional and had no class. It was no secret to the students that there was major issues between the teachers and Mrs. Sinsky, but running up to my car and handing me a flyer and trying to explain what they were doing before my fourth grader got out of the car, I thought it was in poor taste.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, just to let the board know that all the people holding up signs there are no Tubman families up there.
My name is Lydia Sinsky, and I am the proud principal of Harriet Tubman Charter. Thanks to our board's hard work and commitment to putting our children first, our ADA has increased from 244 to 270 in just under 2 years. This is phenomenal. While the district is laying off hundreds of teachers, Tubman will be adding 2 more teachers to our staff, 20 hours of counseling, avid school-wide, and hopefully sports. Tubman is offering our teachers higher salaries than the district and hopes to soon offer annual bonuses to entire Tubman staff for meeting our academic targets. This year, our goal is to become an 800 school. Tubman assures you that we will fully cooperate with the district and comply with the requirements of its charter and the law. And we are respectfully requesting that the board delay approval of this notice to remedy so that Tubman can work collaboratively like we have in the past with the charter office and to amend and discuss the vague and ambiguous findings. The draft notice to remedy violations does not comply with the legal requirements of this stage of revocation procedure. Ed Code states a charter may be revoked by the authority that granted the charter if the authority finds through a showing of substantial evidence. The emphasis here is substantial evidence legally required, not mere allegations. As written, the draft notice to remedy includes no substantial evidence. The district identifies a number of alleged violations of the Brown Act,
Thanks.
the Corporations Code, the EERA, the Charter, and the bylaws, but does not provide any supporting documentation or evidence for the board to review. Issuance of the notice to remedy without remedy of any evidence is a violation of the law. Additionally, the draft notice to remedy violations contains a number of vague statements of alleged violations. For example, there are no factually supported violations articulated under the EERA findings. There are only references to alleged complaints, and there are no specific facts presented with regard to alleged board composition violations. Without the specifics of the alleged violation of the law, charter, Tubman will be unable to respond appropriately to the district's notice.
This is an unfortunate example of being a failure to comply with decorum.
Yeah, I got to really agree with that.
Good evening, distinguished members of the board. My name is Paul Liebman. I'm a parent of 3 children, and also I'm a board member at Harriet Tubman Village Charter School. First of all, I would like to thank this board for giving Tubman's administration advance notice about today's agenda item and for acknowledging that Tubman has made significant strides in student achievement and financial soundness. We are excited about upcoming state testing because we are confident that Tubman's children will knock the CSTs out of the park. When children's interests come first, schools like Tubman prove that the gap of achievement can and will be closed. Tubman assures you that we will fully cooperate with the district and comply with the requirements of its charter and law. We are respectfully requesting that the board delay approval of this notice to remedy so that Tubman be given the opportunity to work with district staff to amend and discuss the vague and ambiguous findings. I would like to point out that because Tubman is not presented with the final outcome of the investigation, nor has Tubman been provided an opportunity to respond to any conclusions made by the investigator, there are factual inaccuracies in the notice to remedy. Tubman would like the opportunity to work with the district staff to correct those factual inaccuracies. In addition, we hereby respectfully request a copy of the completed final investigative report, which is apparently forming the basis of the draft notice
Thank you
to
very
remedy.
much.
Thank you.
Elizabeth Morris.
Good evening. My name is Elizabeth Morris. I have been a proud parent at Tubman for 4 years. I got involved with the board because I saw how my children's school was failing. I feel Lydia and the board are picking up the pieces of the past administration's mismanagement. Many of the specific Brown Act findings took place over a year ago when Tubman had a different board president. Tubman took huge strides in correcting its practices. Since Lydia came on board, ADA scores are up, enrollment is up, as well as attendance. People need to stop looking for problems that are not there, and we need to move forward and focus on what's important, the children's education. And for the record as well, there are no other Tubman parents here with the signs. We keep getting put in with Promise, and we function differently. We're 2 different schools. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Dercel Eubanks, Marion Dokes, and Sherry Wallace.
Hello, board members. My name is Dercel Eubanks, and I'm a parent of 2 children at Harriet Tubman School. I am here again to tell you that the Harriet Tubman Parent Committee stands firmly behind Tubman's current governance board and its principal. I am also disgusted by the fact that the teachers and their union would rather see such a great school shut down just because they don't have any of their union buddies running our school. I am also sick and tired of union people passing out flyers with nothing but lies on them, trying to scare parents into believing that there are problems at our school. The only problem is the fact that Ms. Shivani, a third grade teacher at our school, is trying to get on our Tubman's board. I'm here to tell you that no teacher that says the word nigger to third graders deserves to be on Tubman's board. My daughter came home devastated that day. Based on her teacher's poor judgment in exposing my child and other third graders in that class to the word nigger, and she said N-I-G-G-R, without parent or administration consent, kids are calling each other nigger on the playground because they heard a teacher say it.
Thanks very much. Your time's
The
up.
African American Committee will strongly picket against such an ignorant teacher joining Tubman's board.
Unfortunately,
Frankly,
if people are going to continue to disrespect the time limits on the app for security,
I'm not
your time
disrespecting. This is
up.
my last thing that I'm going to
All right.
say.
Uh-huh.
Frankly, I think that teacher should have been fired for her inappropriate behavior.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good evening. My name is Myron Dokes, and I'm no stranger to San Diego Unified. I want to address the comment of violations of charter provision by the board. One, I am the only teacher that is on the board, and it states that the only teacher on the board of directors does not meet the requirements to be on the board. And I just want to set the record straight that my qualifications are that I've been employed by Tubman Charter School for 2 years. I've been the ELD teacher, the music teacher, and a classroom teacher. Also helped with the recruitment of preschoolers to be enrolled at Tubman. I also want to say that I have helped in fundraisers and as well as academic proceedings at the school. So this statement is false, and I want to set the record straight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Sherry Wallace. I'm the Harriet Tubman Board Secretary. I just wanted to say that the Brown Act findings happened when the old chair president was there. I agree that we need to approve our agendas and meetings, and with me as the Board Secretary, that's what I'm working on, to approve our agenda and meetings. All I'm asking is that you give us a chance to do so. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Okay, we've got a motion and a second to support the staff recommendation. Any further comments? If not, please vote.
Just one comment.
Dr. Evans, yeah.
I mean, I think people need to understand that there was an investigation done in both these schools. Our charter school office has diligently looked into this. This is not a statement for or against any particular person or any particular faction. There were findings of the charter school office, and there are things that need to be remedied, and both of these schools have been given notice. So I support giving notice to these schools when they have violated what they are required to do.
Okay, thank you. Please vote. Okay. Can we get a one motion for items G1 and G2, the consent agenda, board consent agenda? We do not.
Well, I was going to comment on.
Okay, so do you want to separate them then?
Yes.
Okay, so let's take G1, approval of minutes.
Move for approval.
Second.
Okay, any comment on the approval of minutes? No, okay. Okay, item G2, Prop S ICOC bylaws. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Ms. Jackson.
I just want to go on record again. I disagree that the people in San Diego that voted for our Prop S, the Oversight Committee, and this board now is tonight confirming it, I can't support having the business person that represents us on the ICOC or the taxpayers person not having to reside in this district. I think that it is a travesty because we went out to the voters of San Diego and we asked them to support us in its proper measurement. It's their money, it's our taxes, but we're telling them the people overseeing this can come from anywhere, and I disagree with that. I just want to be on record saying that.
Okay.
So I will not support this measure.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson.
It's bylaws.
Any further comment? If not, please vote on item G2. Did we get a motion?
Yes.
Yes.
Second.
Sorry.
Yeah.
All right. Please vote on G2.
We already voted.
Okay. Why don't we take a 5-minute break, and then we'll get to
the meeting. We don't have that much more left.
You guys want to keep going?
Yes.
All right. All right. So then a very quick update on the Tiger teams. Mr. Beiser, Barnett.
30 seconds.
Quick Tiger team update.
Yes. Sorry. The superintendent was whispering and passing notes, and and I used to get caught in school doing that. Tiger team, is that the item?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. The Tiger team will have a general meeting on Saturday, the 16th at 1 o'clock at the Ballard Center, and those Tiger teams who have completed their recommendations will give them to the whole group and anyone who wants to attend at that point, and then they will come to the Board of Education at a following meeting. And there are other Tiger teams still in earlier stages, and encourage anyone who wants to attend. It's 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock on Saturday the 16th at the Ballard Parent Center.
Right. Any... No roar. Okay.
The next item, I'll go ahead and start.
Please, Ms. Jackson.
Certainly, this is just a small item, and what I'm asking the board members to support is that if we have any district-wide surveys, not the ones that we do at schools just to, in departments, but if we have any district-wide surveys, that they be brought to the board for approval prior to them being released to the public.
Okay. Do we have a second? Okay. We got a motion and second. Any comment? Dr. Evans?
Yes. I know that there's been problems sometimes with certain surveys and so forth, but I see this as micromanagement, that the board members have to be provided with any survey that was given to the district. I think should be accessible and available, and I think we have to trust the discretion of the superintendent in dispersing surveys.
Okay. Any further comment on this motion? If not, please vote. Okay, that measure passes 3-2. Okay, formation of ad hoc committee on district liabilities.
Yes, as this board and past boards know, this district has, beyond its just budget issues, a significant amount of long-term liabilities, from deferred maintenance of over $700 million, regular routine maintenance, fleet placement and maintenance, the issue of I-21 sustainability. Will we have money to continue the program when the funds run out, and other areas? So the recommendation is that we actually form an ad hoc committee which would have which would come up with a plan and in dealing with all these, and then of course would come back to the Board of Education for approval and implementation, because obviously it all comes down to dollars and cents.
I will second your motion, and I will join the committee as one of the board members. That's okay with you.
Great.
All right. Let's take the motion. That's a good thing to volunteer. We've got a motion and a second to develop the committee. Any further comment besides Ms. Jackson's volunteer?
Just briefly, I do agree that one of the things we've done is we've moved money around from one place to another to kind of get by, and we at least need to have it very visible what is suffering in terms of physical plant and so forth. While we're making these other cuts. So I think that's very important. Support it.
President Berg, I just make maybe a comment or observation, clarification. Do you want to include liabilities or put the term unfunded in front of liabilities? It has a different interpretation in the accounting.
Both, because there's some other things.
There are, in the general accounting practices, they do talk about unfunded liabilities. I don't know if that was a factor at all.
Mr. Barnett, did you have any?
This motion, sorry.
Well, we obviously there are liabilities as far as we're self-insured and issues such as that. I wasn't necessarily looking at those. Was that the type of issues you were thinking?
No.
Okay.
Just a point of clarification.
Talking about our ongoing maintenance of facilities.
Well, and also there may be, I don't know what other liabilities there may be in healthcare and other things.
There's a lot of them.
So those are...
I've been waiting for this moment.
Okay, good. And so I think at this point, let the committee come back, and I would enjoy serving with Ms. Jackson too if the board is so.
Let's do this. Let's approve the committee. We've got a motion and a second to approve the committee.
And I move for the appointment of Barnett and Jackson to the committee.
And I would second that motion.
And they cannot resign.
Can we get a vote on our first?
Ms. Ward.
Okay, now Dr. Evans is making a motion to have Ms. Jackson and Mr. Barnett serve on the committee. I second that. Any further comment? You're not voting on your own appointment to the committee. All right. Okay, item H4, I am bringing back a motion that I made at the last meeting. And I second it. Any further comment or discussion? If not, Dr. Evans, this is the restoration of service using $7.3 million.
Yeah, this is to rescind pink slips.
Some of them.
Some. Okay. Any further comment?
I can't support the motion. It's to me, it's imprudent to make any decision of this sort at this time, given the fact that we are facing another $50 million of likely cuts. We don't even know what the governor's may revise is, and it's imprudent to make this decision at this time in this ad hoc way. So I can't support the motion.
I would like to comment for just a second.
Okay.
Yeah. While I do understand the magnitude that it's facing as far as the budget crisis is concerned, but what this motion actually does is we're providing funds to cover a decision we've already made. This is not so we are rescinding those that are within this particular $7.3 million. The other thing is that, and we haven't been as vocal certainly about this redevelopment funds. But the builders, and I'm not opposed to people building and providing jobs, but they have taken money from students for far too long. And we cannot provide an educated workforce if the people that have the ability to take money from students continue taking money from students. And this is our first step, I hope our first step in getting money back from the redevelopment people for our students.
Okay, we've got two speakers. Let me call the speakers up and then we can continue our discussion. Sarah Gerling and Sylvia Alvarez.
Well, I've been here so long now, I lost my notes.
Yeah.
But I will make my remarks anyhow. My name is Sarah Gerling, 3643 37th Street. I will be having a new kindergartner, Marcus. I brought him with me tonight. He's going to be starting, hopefully, at the neighborhood school, Cherokee Point. This is not my first time that I will be engaging the city schools. My 19-year-old daughter, who just started, this is her second semester at City College, was the first kindergarten class of Cesar Chavez Elementary the year that school opened up. So the reason I am here is because here we go again. I want to make sure that this little guy has every opportunity to have that engagement with the teacher, and to the extent that you all can make the decisions here that the public can trust, that you were elected to do this job and to look out for little guys like Marcus and all the other little guys that need to have that interaction. Yep, that's him. We want you to do that. We will support you, and the community will stand behind you however difficult it is. I think I speak for many parents who don't want to see our schools suffer those losses of good teachers, what it does to student morale, to the teachers themselves when they get those pink slips. So I understand, Mr. Barnett, your concerns, but I also, as a parent, want to urge you to consider tonight's vote, what you can do now to alleviate that kind of anxiety that we're feeling as we, get ready to register our kids this year for next school year. Thank you very much.
Hello. My name is Sylvia Alvarez. I'm the chapter president for the Office Technical Business Services Unit, Chapter 788. And as I look at this, I just wanted to ask you to, as you consider restoring, I'm reading the agenda item, restoring of services to students, and as you and the board work with the superintendent to restore essential services to students, I ask you for this time, at least once, to consider restoring some of the classified positions because we are essential workers. Thank you.
Okay, so Dr. Evans. Yes.
Okay. First of all, I want to make very clear, these redevelopment funds definitely do need to go into our educational programs, and that is going to happen no matter what we decide on this particular item as far as how it is used. My concern is, and I think we had a comment about someone going to kindergarten who is not going to be affected by this, I want to be able to restore all 300 of the K-3 teachers who've been laid off, as well as other staff ranging from nursing to music and other programs. And the point at which we can do that is when we know how much money we have to work with. We're just shooting in the dark at this point when we're saying, okay, we've got some money here, we've got $7 million here, but we may have $80 million taken away over there. And so for that reason, I support the idea. I just believe for the interest, because one of the problems too is if you restore 100, that does not mean that the same first grade teachers and the same classes in the same schools are going to be there. There's going to be a big shuffling around. If we're able to restore all of them, they will stay in the same classes at the same schools, and it will particularly help the hardest hit schools. So that's the reason why I'm voting against it now, but I am supportive of it when we have our revised budget in May.
Further comment?
Yes. To the lady that spoke with Marcus, I have two daughters who attend San Diego Unified Schools, and both of them told me they came home and their teacher said they got pink slips. It's affecting all the grades in the school. The question is, how do we resolve the overall problem? What this action does tonight is take money in this year's budget, $7 million in a piggy bank in this year's budget, and saying we're going to spend it for next year's budget when we've already been told by our financial director that we think we already have a $9 million shortfall in this year's budget, and we're saying we're going to allocate it next year, and that's just without looking at the big picture. This is one of the reasons we are in this mess now, is because in the board's honest, genuine desire for years to say we don't want to hurt our kids and don't want to hurt teachers, make short-sighted decisions which ultimately hurt us more in the long run. And at some point, we need to get real and maybe have that financial management class that we're offering students that members of the board should look at these issues as well. So it's just, I agree with the motives. I did not support the layoffs, but I think this way of restoring them is very likely that within 30 to 60 days, with another $50 million cut coming, that they're just going to have to be undone again. So it's just imprudent.
Okay. With any further discussion, please vote. Okay, that motion. Sorry, Scott, did you mean to? Yeah. Clear the board, and we'll clear the board and vote again.
Which is it, the red one? No, Scott, it's the green one.
Kevin, can you vote?
No, we've only got the 2-2.
All right.
We got 2-2.
All right, one more time.
Okay, how am I supposed to vote? The green button.
There we go. All right, excellent. Motion passes. Okay, let's move on to item H5. I'm not going to
move approval.
Okay, and do we have a second?
Second.
All right. I won't read this in detail. However, I will say this. Obviously, we're in, and we've got one speaker. Obviously, we're in a difficult situation right now, and that is creating current tension. That's unfortunate but understandable between this board and this administration and several of our employee groups and our unions. But let's be clear about one thing. We earlier this morning we were talking about. Kevin made the point and told a story about, I can't wait till this recession is over. The point is, this recession is over and has been over for a long time for some people. In fact, some people never experienced the recession. They are the people who caused the recession. They're the people who gambled with other people's money and threw the economy into a tailspin, and subsequently taxpayers bailed them out, and they're sitting on record profits today and are doing nothing to help us out of this situation that they caused. And with that reality, we hear day after day attacks on paraeducators and office workers and custodians and counselors and nurses and teachers and bus drivers, and I apologize, landscapers, I apologize for who I'm leaving out, and nurses and police officers and firefighters, as if the people who serve us every day, and in the case of our school district, the people who take care of kids every day, are responsible for this economic situation that we're in. There's an awful lot of rhetoric going out there that blames the people who serve us every day for the problem, and therefore, the argument goes, the way we get out of this problem is by further cutting wages, health benefits, pensions of the people who serve us every day. And I think it's important for us as a board to, on this issue, to stand up with our workers and make a clear statement that the people who are going above and beyond, and we talked earlier about San Diego Unified getting this national award for music and arts education and doing so much with so little. The people who are doing so much with so little don't deserve to be attacked for creating the economic situation that we're in. And it's a small thing that I think that we can do here in passing this motion, but it is a statement from this board that we acknowledge and honor and are grateful for the work that we see every day from our public employees. We're honored and we're grateful for the work of other public employees to keep our kids safe, to keep our kids healthy. And let's keep some attention here on what we need to do as a society to get ourselves out of this crisis. And it's not to bring the hammer down continuously on the people who are doing right by our kids. It's to bring some focus on the people who put us in this situation in the first place. So that's the point of this resolution. And we've got one speaker, Lance Wren.
Thank you very much. I'll be brief. I have never spoken in favor of a resolution or anything that you've done here before, agenda item. So I wanted to speak on this one very much because it means a lot to my heart. And Universal Declaration of Human Rights that was adopted by the United Nations General Assembly December 10th, 1948, says that everyone has a right to join trade unions for the protection of his interests. And the words of Dr. Martin Luther King. The labor movement was the principal force that transformed misery, despair into hope and progress. Out of its bold struggles, economic and social reform gave birth to unemployment insurance, old age pensions, government relief for the destitute, and above all, new wage levels that meant not mere survival, but a tolerable life. The captains of industry did not lead this transformation. They resisted it until they were overcome. When in the 30s the wave of union organization crested over the nation, it carried to secure shores not only itself, but the whole society. It is not teachers, custodians that caused this problem. It is not secretaries. It is not librarians. You're right. It was, as Martin Luther King Junior said, it was the captains of industry. They put our nation at peril. And today they put our children at peril. And what we will do is we will resist. And we will fight them as we did in the 30s. We will fight them because bargaining with our employers in the 1930s causes us the greatest prosperity in this nation through the 50s and 60s. And we have destroyed that ever since. But we will overcome. Thank you.
Thanks, Lance. Dr. Red.
I just want to make a comment. I know that during this time when there's a lot of difficulty with bargaining units in terms of this massive layoff issue, that it may seem a little strange to be bringing this up at this time, but I think it is really important that the board is recognizing the right of all of the workers within this district to be organized and collectively bargain. I remember some years back in the early 80s in Poland, a communist nation where everybody was obviously a public government worker, and they rose up at the shipyards for their right to organize. I think it's unfortunate the situation in Wisconsin where they're having difficult budget situation and they have to ask for certain concessions, that at the same time they're asking to do away with collective bargaining rights. We have entered into negotiations previously with our bargaining units and have gained concessions which have saved our classrooms and helped our kids, and at other times we may even ask and have asked our bargaining units to reopen contracts and talk about concessions and so forth. But that is far different than doing away with their right to do that, doing away with their right to protect their rights and to agree or not to agree what we propose. So I think this is a very timely thing that we need to speak up and do and clarify.
No further comment. Please vote. Okay, thank you. Okay. Dr. Evans.
Yeah, this is another, actually, is an issue about rescission of layoffs, and it is something that doesn't cost any money. And we had discussions about this with staff prior to the layoff notices, and have continued on since. I am not satisfied with the basic state standards of a very conservative approach in terms of calculating attrition in regards to layoffs, and just taking the ultimately safe route of noticing more people that than need to be notified. I know it is a complicated issue, but it's also very. It's not as simple as if one teacher resigns or retires, that means one less layoff, because it depends what kind of teacher retires or resigns or leaves the district in some other way. But I do want to really direct this, my motion is basically to direct the superintendent and the staff to regularly check the attrition figures in terms of what teachers have announced that they are resigning, what classified certificate everyone who has, besides resigning, who has announced they're going to retire, and at that point be able to immediately issue a rescission of one layoff notice for each person that does that. And that's for right now, up until the time when we're really getting close to develop the budget, at which point we need to do a projection of how many, a reasonably calculated projection of how many people will continue to resign and retire or otherwise separate from the district, so that we are not laying off more people than we need to lay off. So my emphasis here is that this needs to be scrubbed very carefully, and that's why I'm asking the superintendent and senior staff to work with human resources and go through this line by line and come back to each meeting between now and the time we adopt the budget with a report on the attrition within the district and how many layoff notices can be rescinded as a result of that, and to take immediate action.
I'll second that, and making sure that we do include the classified people. I heard you mention that, but I want to make sure that that is included as well. That if they are
exactly, it was right.
I was classified and certificate.
I was using the example of the teachers as only an example, but for all employees.
And certificated and classified. Okay, we've got one speaker, David Fernandez.
Good evening, David Fernandez, California School Employees Association, OTBS Bargaining Unit staff person. Ms. Jackson, I do appreciate that last comment because that is something that we have fought this district I've been the staff person here in Unified for 5 years, and it's a reoccurring theme that each year the board lays off close to anywhere between 80 to 100 OTBS vacant positions, and these positions usually become vacant because of retirement or because the district sits on those positions. I just wanted, because this got brought up, on one of the Tiger teams, as you guys scrub the more information that comes out, I've been noticing about the hourly work that's going to be budgeted for the 2011 and 2012 year. I believe in one of the Tiger teams there was about a $1.5 million line item for actual hourly work for the 2011-2012. So as this goes with that, I hope that you guys look for the 2011-2012 as you scrub the information of how much hourly work, because President Alvarez and I, we do get a report each month, and with those vacancies that do not ever get filled, there's typically anywhere between I don't know, maybe like 100 to 200 different names on those lists of OTBS hourly people that are working in our positions. And some of these positions go back, as I've said before in other staff or board meetings, have gone back almost for a year and a half that these positions have gone vacant. If there's a need for the position, we should be filling it. Thank you.
Thank you. And just very quickly, because I know you want to move on, certainly, and I can only speak for this particular board member, we have had a time in our past history that we used a lot of hourlies rather than giving people jobs and allowing them to work. And I hope that we're not going back to that because we have a budget crisis that we're laying off people, but in return we're going to bring a lot of hourlies back on board. So I hope that part is not true.
Absolutely, we are safeguarding that, and regrettably, I have to tell you that we've had to cut into the hourly program, so there are no options left. But even for those that are available, we're going to be monitoring those very, very carefully.
No further comment, please vote. Great, thank you, Dr. Evans. Okay, Ms. Jackson.
I'll make this quick, too. Yeah. In order for us to be more transparent and to allow vetting of items that come before the board for stakeholders and staff, I'm asking that proposed items on the open agenda presented by the superintendent and or board members be agendized as a first reading for first reading and then agendized for action, with the exception of consent agenda items and informational items.
Okay, is there a second to this motion? No second. Okay, we'll move on to item H8. Mr. Barnett.
As this board knows and the public knows, the interim budget that we approved has approximately $115 million of cuts in it, and that's the layoffs and reductions of services and all the other horrific things that people have been testifying understandably against this evening and for the last several weeks. But I think there's a term, I hate to swim in Dr. Evans' pond, but isn't there a term in psychoanalysis called reality testing at some point where we need to... okay. At some point we need to face reality. The tax measure is not on the June ballot. If it is put on a subsequent ballot, it won't be a tax extension anymore. It will be a tax increase because the taxes expire June 30, even if it's put on. Once again, I supported those being on the ballot. I would have supported the extension of them. But we have a very clear likelihood that we're going to have $40 to $50 million of additional cuts in next year's budget. There's an additional $12 billion at the state. As much as I hope they say no more cuts to education and don't suspend Prop 98, they can't find $12 billion without doing it. But you know what? They're going to do what they're going to do. What I'm saying is that we need to at least start preparing for what before we called the doomsday scenario, and now I think is the more realistic scenario, that we're going to have to face another $50 million of reductions of revenues from the state of California. And to that end, what I'm asking is that this board direct the staff in preparing the budget for next year, that they develop a variety of alternatives which recommend how to deal with the additional $50 million or the reduction of $50 million to us from the state, and that be brought back to us as part of it, because we have a very short timeline left, and we have to start dealing with these issues in reality. And so all I'm saying is let the staff, make sure we direct the staff to actually look at what is the real reality likely to occur now, so if we do have to deal with this, it's not going to be as reactive. And that might include significant additional reductions in transportation. It may include closing schools. It may include cutting a lot more programs that we all support, but we can't ignore the fact that it is now a very likely scenario. And we have to do our job, and that means looking at those alternatives. So what I'd like to ask is that we direct staff in developing the 11-12 budget, develop a variety of alternatives which would recommend how to deal with an additional reduction of $50 million in state revenues and bring that back as part of the budget process.
Okay, is there a second to Mr. Barnett's motion?
I will second that motion in terms of directing the staff to begin investigating that, so that we're not scrambling at the last minute if we're in such a situation. And I think furthermore, we need to, as we're leading up to June, we really need to look at a 2-year picture in terms of what's going on between now and this year and next year, because we could do something in June and be right back in September talking about reducing it again. So I think it's important to consider that, and also it's important to let the public know what the possibilities are. I've continually said it's impossible to do with another $50 million, but I think it makes it a little more real to say this is what it would look like with $50 million more of cuts. The public needs to know what the possibilities are.
Yeah, I'll support this motion as well. But again, I come at the reality check idea from a different angle. The reason I think it's important to do this is to, as Dr. Evans is saying, is to reveal the reality that it's impossible. It's impossible. Simply cannot be done. And I don't believe that we can educate our kids with the draft budget that we've been developing. But I believe it's legally and functionally impossible, on top of $115 million of cuts, to add another 35 to 55. But I think it's important for us to do that, to do the analysis, so we can show what that is. And I certainly have no intention of accepting any idea that reality is that's what we're going to do to our schools. I think we have to push the reality back at people who would act or fail to act in a way that would put school districts in that position. Superintendent?
Yes, President Breyer, I think that this effort will indicate that we probably can't cut enough program or close enough schools without creating some other unintended and probably catastrophic results. But I understand where Mr. Barnett is, given the very, very serious, sobering downturn we have in the discussion in Sacramento. Even when we talk about closing a school in a averaging way, particularly for, let's say, a small elementary school, we're only deriving about $450,000 in generic savings, and that's a very loose number. Think about how many schools have to be closed even to come up with something like $10 million or $20 million. I think the effort will result in proving that it is a task for a doomsday scenario.
I would just caution that if we do this, that we not start listing names of programs and or schools. I think that sometimes in our zest to want to get information out, we forget about the consequences of saying those things. If we start coming out now talking about what schools we may close, what programs we may cut, it's only going to increase the anxiety that our staff already has. We're going into the testing window, and I'm not saying that we should not have the staff start looking at and considering things, but I really strongly caution against trying to say that if we have this doomsday scenario, we will cut 10 schools, and here are the 10 schools we will cut. That type of thing riddles fear in people. The question becomes, and this is what was brought up this morning, and I know that Reinerson is working on something now. We have to, and I know people say, well, you're out there. We have to do something dramatic to let the people know that this significant cut to education is detrimental to the future of San Diego and the future of our state. And I've tried to be very quiet and let people try to get things to whatever they're going to do, but it is time for us to start saying that this state cannot survive. We cannot, and I said, don't open schools in September. It is irresponsible for us to sit up here and say we're going to open schools when we know that we can't afford the teachers, we can't afford the support staff. So what we need to tell the governor and the county and everyone else is that if you're going to take money away from our children and you're not going to give us money to educate them, then we're not going to do it. But to sit up here and keep saying, well, you know what? Let's go squeeze that towel again. Let's go shut half of these schools down. Let's get everybody, in a panic about, because people are going to fight for their schools. We don't want them fighting for just their area. We need to send a message loud and clear to the state that we cannot educate the students on the funding that we're currently getting. And what we have done year after year is we've taken it, we've rolled our sleeves up, and we've made it work. And because we've done that, they're giving us the shaft. And it's time for us to turn around and say, we're not taking it anymore. No more. And I know that the unions say, well, we've been down to these other legislative delegations' offices. Well, no, we need, like, you stand out here in front of the board office with your signs, you need to stand in front of their offices with your signs. Okay, we need to stand in front of grocery stores with their signs, because it's ridiculous for the Republican Party, the Republicans in this county and throughout the state, to hold us hostage, our children, our future. And we have to say, board members, we have to say no more. We have to say, we're not going to let you hold us hostage. No, let's go ahead and tell the parents that you're not going to educate their children. That's where we are. And this, yes, go back and look how you can find $50 million. I'm going to tell you, you can't find it without coming out saying we're going to close half the high schools in this area, half the middle schools in this area. You're not going to find it. Okay? So are we going to, it's time to go to war. You're an admiral, let's go to battle.
I just want to repeat, I certainly agree with the point that when we go through this exercise, it is going to show that it can't be done in any reasonable sort of way. I was answering a reporter's question the other day, and she was saying, well, what about $50 million more, and what are you going to do? And I said, well, it legally can't be done. We have too many limits in terms, again, what I said before, we have these requirements and these requirements. We can't do it. And I do believe that we need to have that information, because in June it's going to be D-Day, and we are going to have to take, if that is the case, and that is the direction it's moving. Unless something changes dramatically, that's the direction it's moving, we're going to have to take a stand, and it may be something like saying we're not going to open school in September, which puts our jobs in jeopardy. That's fine. The state will have to take over because there won't be any system to operate anyway.
The state will not have enough balls to take over this district, number one. I'm sorry. I'm up to here with this. And so my feeling right now, my feeling tonight is that, yeah, and you can tell them that I said, I'm sure. Right. But my point is this, that we have great organizing skills that I don't think we need to wait till September.
Right.
And I think this morning, Bernie was saying as early as Friday morning, when the legislators come back to San Diego, our delegation, we need to be in front of their doors, okay? And whatever parents we can get together, whatever science we can get together, we just need to organize. And those of us that are working, I'll adjust my schedule. I'll be there. And I think the media should be there too, saying, are you willing to shut down the schools? Put it in their face. Put it in their face. You want to sit here and say the board? No, put it in the people's face who have the ability. They have the ability to fund our schools, to take care of our children. And they'll run on the platform saying they love families. That's a bunch of BS. I controlled it that time.
I want to talk about a certain person that is in Sacramento that says publicly that they support public education. And I don't want to name names because this person got a couple of phone calls from parents and was like, oh my gosh. And this person got a few emails from parents and educators that wanted to try to communicate to this representative of the people, of our families, that if you support public education, then, don't tell me what you value. Show me your budget and I'll tell you what you value. This person, I found out from several people, their emails started getting bounced back. So this person in Sacramento, who is an elected representative of you and me, turned off their public email address.
Give me the email.
I'm not going to tell you who this person is, because I even started getting some phone calls from some dignitaries and other officials saying that I was putting too much pressure on this person. Did this person vote or support letting the voters of California decide on a tax extension to keep our taxes the same so we could restore basic funding to our schools and provide basic services? No. This person did not. So it's one thing for an elected official to say they support public education and tell parents that we're running into them at brunches, running into them at dinners, that we're talking and confronting this specific elected representative, and that person looked him in the face and said, I support public education and funding for it. And I just cannot believe that. That's unconscionable to me. At least look us in the face and say, you know what, I'm not going to support the tax extension for whatever reason, and that's going to result in extreme financial dire straits for the public schools. And there are, let's be honest, let's put it out there on the table, there are people that think that, well, you know what, school districts, you should just cut everybody's salaries that work in the school districts. Well, if we cut everybody... Now, first of all, let's just talk about the teachers first. The teachers in San Diego Unified have a starting salary that is my understanding, and I could be wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong, Emily. It's my understanding that the starting salary of teachers in San Diego Unified is one of the lowest in the county. That's a little secret. That's why a lot of teachers that live in San Diego teach in other school districts, in the other 41 school districts in the county. So we're going to take low wages and lower them even more. How are we going to be competitive in the labor market to keep and retain quality educators? And then I'm sure you can multiply that effect 1,000-fold with all the other people that have dedicated their lives to help kids and dedicated their lives to public service to help our children learn how to read, write, and do arithmetic so that they can be productive, tax-paying members of society when they get older. So this is what is so frustrating to me. You know, I never thought in my life I would ever run for elected office. Never. I was always happy to volunteer and help other people get elected that are going to put themselves out there. But for an elected official to look parents straight in the face and say, I support public education funding, and then turn around and not vote for it, not support it. Remember, if you ask anybody in Sacramento, the tax extension bill did not get on a June special election by one vote in the Assembly. One person said no. And this one person will cause every single school district in the state of California to be in economic upheaval. And so I welcome the CFO's projections on where and how we're going to cut another $50 million.
Okay.
Can we forward our emails to Assemblyman Fletcher? Oh, I'm sorry, you didn't mention his name.
Okay. He's not running for mayor.
There are 8 legislators from San Diego. Everybody needs to memorize those 8 names. We need to stop fighting over the crumbs between us, all of us who believe in public education, and go to the people who have the power to make the change.
Thanks for instigating us, Mr. Barney.
I'm about love.
All right. We've got a motion and a second. Please vote.
Ms. Jackson?
Okay. All right.
I'm so...
Yes.
There, we have just restored education.
All right. Okay, let's now to a super intense item, the resolution and adoption of the mitigated negative declaration.
Move approval. Second.
All right, please vote. No speakers, amazingly, on this one. Okay, and then this is I2. We've got a motion. Do we have a second?
I'm sorry, what's the item? That's the amendment of the PKS.
It's the updated PKS based on the rescission actions.
Sorry.
That was one you guys did last week when I wasn't around.
What item again?
That is item I2.
Okay, sorry. I just want to make sure.
It's the one which we rescinded last meeting.
Okay, so this is to rescind based on what?
Yeah, so why don't we allow the superintendent?
This is the tie-breaking rule requirement, if you recall, directing the staff to rescind the 30 FTE that created the other 240 plus. We determined that because there's significant same-date seniority, to proceed with that rescission to complete it, there's a tie-breaking protocol that has to be expanded.
And this allows the letter to go out to those 240 people.
The letter of rescission.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Okay. Please vote. Okay. Now, consent agenda items E12 and E13.
I would just ask that we bring these back. These 2 items are for something that starts 1 July. But my concern is that when I asked the staff, and first of all, I want to thank the staff for them providing the information back. And so one of the questions that I asked them was, because in this item it's saying that there's some counseling going on, and I'm like, if we're laying off counselors, why are we hiring outside counselors to do some of the work? So what I would ask is that while the staff started working on that, they didn't quite finish, and I would ask that we bring this back at a later date so the staff has a chance to go back and look at how this funding is.
And I think I was aware of the multiple questions, and I thought it was good to discuss this in the public setting. I do think what I read into your inquiry, too, do we have any past performance records? We ought to be indicating where we are reviewing these types of service provider, what's the track record with them.
Right.
And I'll work with Dr. Fulcher on that.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
We'll table those.
Is there a motion to table? Or?
I move to table this item.
Second.
Thank you.
There's the E12 and E13.
E12 and 13, yes. I'm sorry.
Okay, with that, our meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Okay, Bernie. We need a calendar.